Chapter 729. Yu Hua's exquisite face was a bit red as she said lightly, "Me too. Let's change to another place to play tomorrow," Lai Gu said excitedly. If in the past he wanted to marry Yu Hua as soon as possible, then now he just wanted to be together with Yu Hua every day. And looking at Yu Hua's slightly shy face, Lai Gu made up his mind and hugged Yu Hua. "Yu Hua, you are the best." Right now, Yu Hua's heart was in a mess. This was the first time she snuggled into a man's embrace. This kind of hug gave her a strong sense of security, which was a feeling that she didn't have in the past. Right now, Lai Gu was very nervous. This was a different feeling from hugging my wife. Yu Hua struggled for a bit, then calmed down. "Lai Gu, we are still outside the palace." "Ah, sorry." Lai Gu hurriedly let go of Yu Hua and apologized. Looking at Lai Gu's panic-stricken look, Yu Hua laughed tenderly, just like 100 flowers blooming at the same time. "You should go back and rest early. I will wait for you tomorrow," Yu Hua said tenderly, and her pair of beautiful eyes revealed out tenderness. Lai Gu nodded his head. "And you should rest early too." Right after Yu Hua finished speaking, His Honor's voice transmission rang out in Lai Gu's mind. His Honor's tone wasn't very good. Seeing that Lai Gu's expression had a huge change, Yu Hua asked with concern, "Did something happen?" "Oh, nothing much. His Honor is looking for me." Lai Gu squeezed out a smile. Judging from His Honor's tone, it definitely isn't a small matter. It can't be because of me and Yu Hua, right? "Hurry up and go then. Don't delay the important matter," Yu Hua instructed. This made Lai Gu very happy. Looking at Lai Gu leaving, Yu Hua's mouth arced up into a trace of a smile. She was looking forward to tomorrow's date. Meanwhile, at Voidless Realm, the Empress's palace was brightly lit. Yi Hua's face was sunken as he listened to Lai Gu and the other two women's choked complaints. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji were also sitting at the side, and their expressions weren't very good either. From their complaints, Lai Gu, that scumbag, was extremely bad. He had 3 beautiful wives at home, and he was still fooling around outside. The reason why Yi Hua's face turned black was because Lai Gu's actions had caused me, the Supreme Overlord, to lose too much face. This kind of matter actually came to me, and no matter how Qingye and Donghuang Baiji looked at it, the subordinates that I taught are exactly like this. The 3 women had no other choice but to beg His Honor to give them justice. There's no way for us to continue living like this. In actuality, Yi Hua was also scolding Lai Gu for being stupid. "You're fooling around outside, yet you're showing off in front of your wife at night. Are you out of your mind or something? This kind of thing could not be said. After all, it was better to bring it home directly than to show off in front of his wife." Idiot. At this time, Lai Gu also appeared at the scene, and when he saw his 3 wives kneeling in front of His Honor while weeping, Lai Gu had a stupefied look on his face. Also, why is the complexion of His Honor and His Honor's madam so bad? Subordinate pays respect to your honor. Lai Gu also kneeled on the ground and shouted out. Yi Hua also didn't ask Lai Gu to get up. Since His Honor didn't say anything, Lai Gu didn't dare to get up. "I feel that something big is going to happen today." Yi Hua looked at the big family that was kneeling on the ground, then took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up in annoyance. "My face has been completely thrown away. Lai Gu, you said it yourself. How are we going to deal with this matter?" Yi Hua said gravely. Lai Gu raised his head and said with a puzzled look on his face, "Your Honor, what is the matter?" Qingye and Donghuang Baiji, who were sitting at the side, shook their heads. Looking at Lai Gu's hesitant look, he doesn't seem to be pretending. "What is the matter?" Yi Hua's tone couldn't help but become a bit higher, scaring Lai Gu to the point that he hurriedly lowered his head. Subordinate really doesn't know what is going on. Lai Gu wanted to cry but had no tears. "Just what is going on? Why are my 3 wives crying like that? You still have the face to ask me what is going on?" Lai Gu's face suddenly sunk. "Iran, did someone bully you all? Tell me, I will help you all vent your anger." Hearing what their husbands said, the 3 women cried even more ferociously. Qingye shook her head and said faintly, "Lai Gu, do you still not know? Your wife?" Lai Gu was really stupefied. Donghuang Baiji directly said, "Lai Gu, forget about you dating Yu Hua. Why did you have to anger them?" "Your wife, I didn't anger them." Lai Gu hurriedly explained. I indeed didn't anger them, and I have treated them quite well. The three women remained silent and sobbed in low voices. Yihua let out a light sigh. Towards Lai Gu, he understood him very well. For him to be able to persevere until now and not give up on them, it was already a miracle. I am asking you, just what are your thoughts towards them? Today, you don't have to hide anything from me, you better speak clearly. Because of your matter, I haven't gone to sleep yet. You are affecting my sleep quality. Qingya. Donghuang Baiji. Lai Gu still didn't understand what was going on, but he still said, Your Honor, of course I like them. Then if you were to choose between Yuhua and them, which side would you choose? Yihua raised the core question of this farce. This question made Lai Gu feel awkward. The first thing that appeared in his mind was Yuhua, and only after that did he think of his three wives. Seeing that Lai Gu was hesitating, tears began flowing out of the three women's eyes once again. I treated you with sincerity, yet this is the result I got in return. This is too hurtful. Yihua said faintly, When you were together with Yuhua this past Sunday, did you ever think about their feelings? You went on a date just because you said you were with them, and yet when you returned home, you even flaunted about it. Is there a hole in your brain? Speaking up to here, Lai Gu finally understood. So it was because of this matter. Thinking back to what happened this week, Lai Gu felt that he was indeed flaunting a bit. Your Honor, subordinate did not do that to flaunt. I only did not want to deceive them. It was subordinate who did not consider things thoroughly. I have troubled Your Honor. Lai Gu said respectfully. These were also Lai Gu's heartfelt words. He had never wanted to hide anything from them. From the first time they went on a date, it could be seen that Lai Gu told Yuhua about his three wives, and he did not hide anything from his wives. Perhaps, Lai Gu didn't consider things thoroughly, and didn't understand the thoughts of women. Between a husband and wife, it would be better for them to speak things out, and then solve it together. Yihua let out a breath. I helped you ask them just now. They don't mind you looking for them, but you have to respect them. Don't act like how you did in the past, understand? Yihua was also reminding Lai Gu to not treat others as tools for mating, and to treat others attentively. Lai Gu naturally understood what his honor meant. Your Honor, be at ease, I will treat them well. Something like this will not happen again. Chapter 730. The four people who were kneeling on the ground shouted out respectfully, Your Honor, Your Honor's wife. Lai Gu let out a sigh of relief, then looked at his three wives and said lightly, let's go home first. The three wives nodded their heads. In actuality, they were still a bit afraid. If I come to complain to His Honor, would I anger Lai Gu? After all, in their hearts, Lai Gu was a hegemon. After returning home, Bai Xiaozhen said lightly, Gu, I'll go and cook for you. Xiaozhen, let's have a good talk. Lai Gu said faintly, then walked towards the living room. Hearing that her husband's tone was different from before, the three women were a bit flustered. However, they still obediently followed behind her husband. The four of them sat on the sofa, and Lai Gu suddenly held onto the hands of his three wives and said slowly, I very rarely say sorry, but regarding this matter, the way I handled it was wrong. I have caused all of you to feel sad. I apologize to all of you. Hearing Lai Gu's apology, the resentment in the three women's hearts instantly dissipated. Lai Gu had never acted like this before. However, Lai Gu continued, We don't have any emotional foundation. In the beginning, I only treated you all as a tool to vent. Lai Gu still said. Lai Gu couldn't say this sentence out, but he still understood. More or less, but after such a long time, I discovered that I can't seem to leave you all. I have already gotten used to it. But the feeling that Yuhua gave me was like my first love, or rather love. I have never experienced such a feeling before. And the feelings between us were formed on the bed. Can you all understand if I say it like this? Lai Gu was speaking from the bottom of his heart. Bai Xiaozhen's slender shoulders slightly trembled as she choked with sobs. Then, after you have Yuhua, will you still treat us well? Lai Gu couldn't help but knock onto Bai Xiaozhen's forehead. Are you stupid? Although I like Yuhua, I didn't say that I will treat you all badly. If Yuhua comes to our house, she will also be the fourth child, and you will still be the eldest. Really? Bai Xiaojun still didn't dare to believe it. These few days, I have been letting my imagination run wild. I thought that my husband would give me the cold shoulder. That's why, you women just love to let your imagination run wild. And you even quarreled with his honor. If there's anything, we can sit down and talk, understand? After chatting like this, the three women heaved a sigh of relief. Actually, they were afraid that Lai Gu would give them the cold shoulder. I'm sorry. When Xia took the initiative to apologize to her husband, Lai Gu laughed evilly. Is a single apology enough? You guys have been lying like corpses for the past few days. Today, I am also going to lie like a corpse. After the misunderstanding was resolved, Lai Gu was finally able to feel comfortable. So much so that when the next morning came, the three wives even helped their husbands to dress up, and warned him about the things that he had to pay attention to, so as to not make the girls unhappy. Lai Gu was very happy towards his wives' change. Furthermore, he guaranteed that Yu Hua would be his last woman. If Yi Hua heard what Lai Gu said, he would definitely not believe it. Because in the past, Lai Gu often said that this female dragon is my last dragon. However, maybe after Lai Gu became a human, he also changed? With a happy mood and under the encouragement of his wives, Lai Gu continued to flirt with girls. Lai Gu was really interested in Yu Hua. Of course, towards his wives' magnanimity, Lai Gu was also very gratified, and the way he treated them also changed a lot. A year passed in the blink of an eye. During this year, nothing happened at all. This caused Yi Hua to be so bored that he started combing his hair. From that day onwards, Voidless Realm and South Wuqi were also being guessed by many people, wondering if they would shake hands and make peace with each other or fall out with each other. However, as a year passed, everyone seemed to have forgotten about these two huge organizations. Those who should be going to bars were going to bars. Those who should be flirting with girls were going to flirt with girls. And those who should be going on blind dates were going on blind dates. This was also the thing that made Yi Hua depressed. If everything is going on the right track, why would I want to stir up trouble? If not for my children growing up a bit, I would have directly killed my way back to Voidless Realm right now. Speaking of children, God Yi and Yi Lu had truly inherited Yi Hua's personality. They were very competitive, and had an unyielding spirit. Ever since they were born, they had never left Voidless Realm. On the other hand, Dong Huangli and Yi Yan were different. Sometimes they would go out to play, and when they were bored, they would train for a bit. Towards the four children's personalities, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji gave up on correcting them. However, during this period of time, a very strange thing happened, and that was the Green and Red brothers. They were actually unable to conceive a child. And this made Zishan and the other vampire sisters extremely anxious. In fact, they even gave the Green and Red brothers some old folk medicine to eat. In the end, they had no choice but to look for Yi Hua. After Yi Hua's diagnosis, he said that the Green and Red brothers were very normal, and if they were to continue working hard, they might be able to conceive a child. This matter also fell into the ears of Dou Fushi and Li Hun. Originally, Li Hun didn't really care about this matter, but he was also very puzzled. I didn't take any safety measures with me, so why aren't there any reactions? As for Zhu Tian, he was still in the state of a kitten. Yi Zizi was still the same, playing games every day. Wei Chang and Tang Wei were also the same. Tang Wei had long given up on attacking, and without Tang Wei attacking, Wei Chang became even more unresponsive. Death Mage and Sun Fang were also the same, playing games and whatnot, living their lives happily. Blood Demon was also the same, meticulously taking care of the bar, making sure that his honor had enough pocket money. As for Lai Gu and Yu Hua, good things were about to happen. In this 1 year, Lai Gu had been very respectful and caring towards Yu Hua, and even now, he still hasn't kissed Yu Hua, and was only holding hands. Yu Hua was also gradually being captivated by Lai Gu's tenderness. Yesterday night, Lai Gu's marriage proposal was successful, and he begged his honor to host the wedding for him. This caused Yi Hua, who was bored to the point of being anxious, to come to life. I remember that the wedding that was hosted last time was hosted by Yi Hong and Zishan. I didn't expect that it would be Lai Gu's turn so quickly. I am very happy. The weather was beautiful, and the sunlight was warm. Lai Gu arrived at South Wuqi early in the morning to wait for Yu Hua, because today he was going to bring Yuhua back home to get to know his 3 wives, then prepare to get married. Thinking about the 1 year that he spent chasing after Yuhua, Lai Gu felt very happy. Hard work pays off. I finally managed to chase after the girl that I like. I am too happy. Yuhua, who was in the room, was currently dressing up, and her beautiful face appeared to be very shy and a bit nervous. In any case, I am going to meet Lai Gu's other wives today. However, thinking about how well Lai Gu treated her, Yuhua revealed out a happy smile. Marrying Lai Gu should be very happy. Sai, my Yuhua is about to leave me. Kaiyan walked into the room disconsolately and sighed. Yuhua turned her head around and said with a smile, "Flag Master, wasn't it you who pushed me out? Then, I am going to take it back now." Kaiyan sat in Yuhua's embrace and had a look of reluctance on his face. Chapter 731. I feel that it's fine as well. Then, I will inform Lai Gu about it now. Yuhua joked. Kaiyan snorted. Yuhua, you have been led astray by that Lai Gu, Yuhua chuckled. I think so too. Looking at Yuhua's tender appearance, Kaiyan sighed emotionally. Yuhua, this dragon has chased after you for a year. His sincerity has finally come, and I can hand you over to him with ease. Towards creatures like dragons, they were a group of impatient and unbridled races. This was even more so towards women. Lai Gu persisted for a year and was respectful towards Yuhua. He had also obtained Kaiyan's acknowledgement, and even more so, he had obtained Yuhua's acknowledgement. Flag Master, look at what you're saying. It's as if I've married far away. Don't talk about it anymore. The others are still waiting outside the palace. Yes. Lai Gu, who was standing outside, finally waited for the moonlight to appear. Every time he saw the moonlight, Lai Gu would feel a surge of emotions. This surge of emotions wasn't a physiological need. It was just a simple desire to see the moonlight. Even from far away, Lai Gu waved his arm and shouted loudly, Yuhua. Looking at Lai Gu's joyful look, Yuhua revealed out a gentle smile. Lai Gu, I have made you wait for a long time. Lai Gu held on to Yuhua's hand and said, It's all right. I am willing to wait for as long as it takes. Yuhua was wearing a sparkling wedding ring on her finger. Everyone was envious. Your wife won't bully me, right? Yuhua said in a joking tone. How could that be? They're all waiting for you. Our whole family is going to take our wedding photos. And I will listen to you. Yuhua lightly held onto Lai Gu's arm, and the two of them disappeared from Nanwu Flag. In Song Konghong's room, the table was filled with empty bottles of 5-grain liquor. Song Konghong, who had sealed his cultivation, was already unconscious on the floor. There were many shredded pieces of paper on the floor, filled with his longing for Yuhua. However, he had torn them up himself. The sad song, Learn to Get Used to, played on a loop in the room. White Bones stood at the side, looking at Blue Sky Hong, who had been dispirited for a year. Why are you pretending to be dead? Who are you trying to sell yourself to? White Bones kicked Song Kong Hong, who was on the ground, and said angrily. Seeing that Song Kong Hong, who was on the ground, did not have any reaction, White Bones shouted lightly. You are the one who let him go. You can't blame others. Look at how much Lai Gu cares about you. Then look at you. How can there be a coward like you in our 5 Flags division? From what I see, Yuhua's choice of Lai Gu is also correct. With your cowardly look, which woman would like you? The more Bai Gu spoke, the angrier he got, especially when he saw Firmament Hong's silly look. Now they're about to get married. If you have the ability, go and steal the wedding, coward. White Bones was also furious. He fiercely kicked and disappeared. After White Bones left, Blue Sky Red, who was on the ground, opened her small eyes. Bride kidnapping? This might be his last chance. Within Voidless Realm, Yihua was currently thinking about the wedding process. No matter what, it was Lai Gu's wedding, and as Lai Gu's mount, Yihua was very attentive towards it. However, this time, I don't plan to invite a lot of people. All of them are just a group of subordinates. Using Lai Gu's words, great scholar, low profile. Low profile. Actually, it was Yuhua's idea. She didn't like to make it too grand. It was enough to have everyone's blessings. Qinya, what do you think I should say? Yihua asked curiously. After waiting for a while, Qinya didn't reply. Yihua asked Donghuang Baiji. Baiji, what do you think we should do to liven things up? Donghuang Baiji didn't say anything. Yihua turned his head around and looked towards his two wives. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji could be seen drinking tea with an unhappy look on their faces. A certain person, he is so worried about his subordinate's marriage, but why doesn't he worry about his own? Qingye's words have a hidden meaning. It has already been so long, yet Yihua still hasn't given me and Baiji a wedding. Donghuang Baiji said, from what I see, a certain person doesn't want to give us a wedding. Yihua knew that it would be like this. These 2 days, the two of them have been acting abnormally. I already told you two, after I get my revenge, I will give you two an unprecedented wedding. Then, how long do we have to wait? Are we going to have all our hair turn white and all our teeth fall out? Qingye snorted. Yihua smiled bitterly and shook his head. You two don't worry, help me think of a way first. Donghuang Baiji snorted. We are the women's people. How can we possibly think of a way with you? Tell Lai Gu to prepare more red packets, otherwise he won't open the door. Yihua. The wedding this time was different from the last time. These women were also grabbing onto the opportunity to cause trouble. All of the women joined in blocking the door, and even Qingye and Donghuang Baiji joined in the fun. Yihua smiled in disdain. Alright, let's wait and see. Alright, let's see who is more impressive. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji weren't afraid. October 10th was a good day. Today was the day that Lai Gu and his 4 wives were getting married. In the end, Yihua decided that the wedding would be held at Voidless Realm. Therefore, Voidless Realm was brimming with happiness today. As for the women, they were all arranged to be at South Wuqi Banner. As the groom, Lai Gu was wearing Chinese groom attire today, and there was even a huge red flower tied to his chest. Coupled with that happy expression of his, he simply looked like an idiot. No matter how powerful a person is, when it comes to the day that they get married, they would all become like this. When the day comes, I will be very calm and collected. Yihua was also dressed splendidly today. Looking at the time, it's about time. Everyone come over. Yihua ordered. Lai Gu Weichong Death Mage, Yihang LV Liang, Do Fusher Blood Demon, and a husky formed Lai Gu's groomsmen group. Subordinate pays respect to your honor. Everyone shouted out in unison. Yihua slightly raised his hand and said, Today we only have one mission. Snatch the bride. When everyone heard snatch the bride, it was so exciting. However, Lai Gu hurriedly said, The bride is mine, you all cannot snatch the bride. Ha ha ha. Everyone laughed out loud, and even Yihua laughed out loud. This is the kind of festive atmosphere that I wanted. Speaking of which, it has been a long time since the entire group was like this. This wedding is a good one. Yihua looked at the time. The auspicious time has arrived. Let's go. Everyone rubbed their palms together, preparing to turn South Wuqi Banner upside down. Everyone immediately arrived at South Wuqi Banner, and Yihua waved his hand. Snatch! Lai Gu and the others shouted out. Snatch! Seeing that his honor had brought people over to snatch the bride, Bai Gu, who was in the air, hurriedly went back to report the situation. His honor is here to snatch the bride. For beautiful women who were dressed in red bridal attire could be seen sitting on the big bed, and countless beautiful women could be seen standing beside them. Qingye Donghuang Baiji, Qing Yutong, Yi Zizi Brett, Tang Wei, Sun Fong, Zishan Li Hun, the Blood Clan sisters, Dongfang Yuer, Guan Yanqin, and of course Kai Yun the Little Beauty. Luo Ho, Kuang Sha, and Bai Gu were naturally among them as well, but Sky Red was not seen. Chapter 732. Everyone thought that Song Konghong did not want to see this scene, so she hid in her room and cried. Or perhaps she did not dare to face reality and chose to escape. Qingye laughed lightly and said, Snatch people. It won't be that easy. That's right, that's right. Is it so easy to marry my Yuhua? Kaiyan revealed a naughty smile. It looked like the female side was going to stir up trouble. With Qingye and Donghuang Baiji supporting him, the woman's side became very arrogant. If Lai Gu wants to marry his wife today, no matter what, he would have to lose a few kilograms of blood. At this moment, Qingye laughed tenderly, then immediately formed hand seals with both hands. Emperor Extreme Mystery Codex. This move was something that Yihua had taught Qinya. Right now, Qinya was using this move to trick her husband. This move was also a blatant revenge on Yihua. Yihua didn't give me a wedding, yet he didn't even coax Yihua. An invisible barrier could be seen enveloping the bride's room. In order to make the barrier even more sturdy, Qinya smiled and said, "Come, add a bit of something." All the beauties had heard what your wife had said. She had added as much material as she could to make the barrier as hard as possible. Right now, Yihua had brought his underlings over. Era ran at the very front and excitedly stuck out his tongue and swung it around, making it seem as if he was the one who got married. Bang! The husky Yunlang felt as if he had knocked his head on something. He felt dizzy and his limbs were unsteady, as if he was drunk. Seeing how the husky was acting, Yihua raised his hand and clenched his fist. There's a trap! The subordinates came to an abrupt halt. Lai Gu stretched out his hand and touched with a puzzled expression, and the corner of his mouth twitched. Do you have to be so ruthless? Blood Demon, who was at the side, was recording the scene with his camera. Such a joyous moment like this naturally has to be recorded. 100 years. 1,000 years. 10,000 years later, when I take it out to look at it, it will also be very warm and heartwarming. This was what a lively team should be like, one that felt like home. Yihua stretched out his hand and touched Yihua's hand. Yihua silently scolded his wife for messing around. However, since it is a wedding, of course, I have to mess around. Yihua could be seen taking out a loudspeaker, then shouting out loudly, "The woman inside, listen up. You have been surrounded. If you know what's good for you, quickly hand over the bride to me." Lai Gu felt that with his honor supporting him, Lai Gu's confidence had also increased. When his honor speaks, will the woman inside still dare to not listen to him? However, Donghuang Baiji shouted out loudly, "Yihua, didn't you say that there isn't a difference between a superior and a subordinate today?" Did I? Did I say that? Yihua looked towards his male subordinate, and the latter shook his head. What do you all want before you all open the door? Yihua didn't waste any more time. Let's not waste any more time. Let's start with a rain of red packets. The laughter of the women inside rang out. Without even thinking, Lai Gu took out his phone and began sending red packets in the group. The women inside the group were also courting death by snatching the red packets. Yihua also silently took out his phone and casually tapped on a few red packets, feeling happy. Afterward, Qinya shouted out loudly, "Yihua, you cannot snatch them. Hurry up and send them out." Lai Gu looked at his honor with hidden bitterness. Looking at Lai Gu's expression, Yihua felt helpless. Didn't I just snatch a few red packets? These women are truly stingy. What's wrong with me snatching a few red packets? Without a choice, Yihua sent out a few more red packets, and I even suffered a loss. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have snatched them. After a few waves of red packets rained down, Qinya finally removed the barrier. Yihua waved his hand, snatch. A group of men immediately rushed into the room, and even knocked down the door. The men were simply going to kill the gods that they meet. How could the women be able to resist against them? In an instant, the men arrived in front of the bride. Qinya said angrily, "Why did you all let the red packets in so quickly? The red packet rain hasn't even stopped yet." The women were also helpless. These men are too savage. Yihua looked at his female subordinates and snorted. "What? Do you want to block my path too?" Qinya and Donghuang Baiji snorted. At the scene, only the two of them dared to be disrespectful to Yihua. At this time, it was Lai Gu's turn to speak. Looking at the four wives on the bed, Lai Gu's heart surged endlessly. I finally have a wife. Read according to what is written on it. They are all written by your wives. Donghuang Baiji took out a piece of white paper, and on the paper, densely packed words were written on it. Lai Gu held onto the paper. There are a lot of rules here. Looking at Lai Gu, who was preparing to take the oath, Yihua said faintly, "What are you standing for? Kneel down." Lai Gu looked at his honor with a stupefied look. His honor, just whose side are you on? You can't be a spy, right? That's right, his honor has already spoken. Hurry up and kneel down and read. Kai Yan also wanted to, just that he was too embarrassed to say it out. Since his honor had already spoken, Kaiyin immediately followed suit. Chapter 733. What else could Lai Gu do? Lai Gu obediently knelt beside the bed, then said, My dear wives, I Lai Gu, hereby swear that in this lifetime, I will only love the four of you. If I were to violate my vow, then let Yu Hua. Crackbone's skin felt a little numb. Was there a need to be so ruthless? Hurry up and read it. Don't waste time. Qinya let out a sweet-sounding laughter. These were all written by the women together. And of course, these were also the thoughts of the four brides. Lai Gu made up his mind. I will just let Yu Hua kill me, and from then on, I will not be able to have sex anymore. All the men instantly felt a chill in their crotches. How ruthless. Men really can't get married. After marriage, they will be completely suppressed by their wives. However, Lai Gu didn't think so, and he wholeheartedly wanted to marry them into his family. Therefore, he agreed to countless terms. It was like rubbing the dragon's face on the ground with all his might. After the vows, there were still various kinds of games that Lai Gu played. Lai Gu was also very cooperative, causing his four wives to laugh continuously. This is the atmosphere that a wedding should have. However, one of the games was a little scary. That was to let Lai Gu cover his eyes and kiss his four wives. Then guess who the wives were? However, the target of the kiss was not his four wives. Instead, he replaced them with Death Mage, Yi Hong, Do Fusher, and Er Ha. Everyone held back their laughter when they saw this scene, especially Er Ha, who stuck out his tongue to breathe. However, Lai Gu still had a bashful look on his face, causing everyone to almost collapse from laughter. The first thing that Lai Gu chose to do was to kiss Death Mage. This caused Sun Fong to cover her small mouth and almost spurt out. Even Death Mage's expression changed as he tightly grabbed onto the bedsheet. I am going to be kissed by a man. So disgusting. However, Lai Gu was rather unrestrained, and he directly kissed Yi Hua. Everyone could even see that Lai Gu had stretched out his tongue and actually French kissed Death Mage. Looking at the situation, everyone was no longer able to hold back their laughter, and started laughing wildly. Even Yi Hua was paralyzed from laughing. The four brides on the bed also giggled. As expected of the undead clan, full of gay affection. When Lai Gu heard the laughter beside his ear, coupled with the feeling that it was weird, he took off his blindfold. Looking at Death Mage who was in front of him with a face that was about to collapse, and those eerie white teeth, fuck. I feel like vomiting. Lai Gu had the heart to cry. You guys are too much of a bully. All of you are joining hands to bully me. This was the funniest scene. The last task was to find the shoes. When other people got married, they would look for a pair of shoes, but when Lai Gu got married, he would look for 4 pairs, 8 pairs. Yi Hua didn't hold back. Listen up, lift up their skirts. It must be hidden under the skirt. Yes. The male subordinates immediately looked at their wives. The room was immediately thrown into chaos. Yi Hua immediately hugged onto Qinya and Donghuang Baiji, then said in a low voice, The two of you are not being honest today. Qinya and Donghuang Baiji said, Who told you not to coax us? Alright, I'll coax you tonight. Pervert, quickly tell me where the shoes are. Yi Hua said with a smile. Go look for it yourself. Don't force me to lift up my skirt. Yi Hua threatened. Then go ahead and open it. Let's see if there are any. Yi Hua felt that it was definitely not on them. Immediately, he looked towards his sister-in-law, and the latter was immediately startled. So, it turns out that it was on Yutong's body. After letting go of his 2 wives, Yi Hua immediately grabbed onto his sister-in-law. Ah, brother-in-law, what are you doing? What do you think I am doing? Quickly hand it over. Don't. Qin Yutong snorted, indicating that her brother-in-law didn't like her anymore. Yi Hua said in a low voice, Tell me where the shoes are. I will come over and accompany you tonight. Really? Qin Yutong was delighted. Of course, when have I ever lied to you? Qin Yutong immediately told Yi Hua where all of the shoes were hidden. Fortunately, Yi Hua had a little secret agent. If not, it would be really hard to find the shoes. Donghuang Baiji, who was standing not far away, said in a low voice, Qinya, why do I feel that those 2 fellows are doing something ambiguous behind our backs? I have the same feeling too. Qinya nodded her head. They couldn't have already done it, right? That's why they are hiding it from us. Donghuang Baiji cried out in surprise. However, there wasn't any anger on her face. I don't know. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji were both puzzled, just that they didn't have any evidence to prove it. With Qing Yutong's help, the shoes were instantly found. Lai Gu was finally able to bring his 4 wives out. He was so happy. Everyone excitedly changed their destination and arrived at Voidless Realm. After everyone left, only Tsang Konghong was left in South Wuqi. Just now he heard the laughter from the other side, and his heart felt very gloomy. But today I, Tsang Konghong, am going to be a man and take back my love. After returning to Voidless Realm, immediately, gongs and drums could be heard, and there were even firecrackers being set off. Since the wedding was going to be held in Voidless Realm, other than his subordinates, all of Voidless Realm's residents would also be attending the wedding. The wedding was going to be held in Voidless Realm, and the wedding was going to be held in a rather grand manner. There were a few hundred tables. The ones who were sitting at the very front were naturally Qing Ye's subordinates. As the host of the wedding, Yihua was already standing on the stage with a happy smile on his face. It is very rare to see Yihua smile for so long. Qing Ye said tenderly. Donghuang Baiji was also moved. That's right, this fellow looks cold, but in actuality his heart is very warm. This is what it means to be cold on the outside but warm on the inside, right? Qing Ye said tenderly. While looking at her man with her beautiful eyes, her heart was filled with happiness. Yihua, who was standing on the stage, looked at his subordinates and felt gratified in his heart. Right now, all of them were in pairs, living happily with each other. Compared to the way they fought and killed each other in the past, they were like 2 different people. As the boss of the team, Yihua also sighed incomparably. Slowly picking up the microphone, Yihua said with an incomparably joyful voice, I am very happy to be able to stand here and host this wedding for Lai Gu. After finished speaking, Yihua even held on to Lai Gu, looking like a good brother. This caused Lai Gu to feel a bit overwhelmed by the favor. I remember that last time, I was hosting Yihong and Zishan's wedding. In the blink of an eye, 2 years have passed. Time flies. Cherish the loved ones by your side. Let's not talk any more nonsense. Let's welcome today's 4 brides. The wedding march immediately rang out. The 4 brides had changed into pure white wedding gowns and were slowly walking over with white scarves. The ones who were scattering flowers at the front were naturally the 4 little fellows. Back then, when Yihong and Zishan got married, Ali was also scattering flowers. Today it wasn't just Ali, Yi and Godyi, and Yi Lu were all present. Adorable children and beautiful brides, it was simply a perfect scene. Looking at his 4 wives who were leisurely walking over, Lai Gu felt very excited in his heart, to the point where he even had the feeling of wanting to cry. In my entire life, I have experienced many big and small battles with his honor. Every single day, I am walking on a tightrope, and I might fall at any moment. At that time, I can only vent. Chapter 734. Lai Gu knew that dragons always gave people a bad impression, but Yuhua still chose to believe in him. I will not disappoint Yuhua and my 3 wives. I will treat them well, love them well, protect them well, otherwise, they will be sad. As the 4 brides walked to the front of the stage, Yuhua picked up the microphone and said with a smile, Lai Gu, do you know what you did wrong? Everyone present was stupefied. His honor changed his attitude too quickly, right? Lai Gu came to a realization and shook his head. Yihua said gravely, as your leader, I, the Supreme Overlord, only have 2 wives. You actually married 4 wives at once. Aren't you stealing my limelight? Everyone. Zishan laughed. His honor has become much more daring recently. He is no longer afraid of your wife. Yihong pouted her mouth. His honor is a real man. Unlike me, I get abused by Zishan every single day. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji were helpless after hearing what Yihua said. Qingye shouted out, if you think that you don't have enough wives, go and find more. That's right, do you want me to introduce a few beauties to you? Donghuang Baiji said. This caused everyone to burst into laughter. The relationship between his honor and your wife sure is good, and they are also very down to earth, not giving off a feeling of being high and mighty. When have I, the Supreme Overlord, ever been a coward? Baiji, you are the one who said it. I still want 3 more. Yihua joked. No matter what, I still want more than my subordinates, right? Dong Huangbaiji's expression remained unchanged. 3, that's too little. How about 30? I will let you flip the cards tonight. Yihua laughed out loud. Qingye, did you hear that? Hurry up and take action now. Blood Demon, take a picture of this for me. These are all evidence. Qingye and Dong Huangbaiji snorted. He is even going to go on a high level. He still wants to have 30 wives. Pig Trotter, everyone was very surprised that His Honor was able to make such a joke. At the same time, they also discovered another side of His Honor. It was very interesting. Especially the newly joined South Wuqi and the others. They finally understood His Honor a little. Let's put aside my harem plans for now. The main character today is not me. What His Honor said caused everyone who was seated to laugh out. So His Honor can actually be this amusing? I'm afraid that I have to go back and kneel on the keyboard tonight. Yihua gradually became serious and said to the 4 brides. Lai Gu has followed me for over 1,000 years, and he has done his best to help me. Lai Gu has been hovering on the edge of death. There is no perfect person. Lai Gu has his flaws, and I naturally have my flaws as well. However, since the 4 of you have chosen each other, you have to advance and retreat together. Lai Gu, do you have anything to say to them? Yihua passed the microphone over. Lai Gu took over the microphone, and he seemed to be very nervous. Even his hands were trembling. This was the first time Lai Gu's subordinates saw Lai Gu in such a state. Usually, Lai Gu was very carefree, and they didn't expect that he would be so nervous at this moment. What a naive dragon. The 4 wives standing in front of him were also smiling, looking at their adorable husbands. Lai Gu suddenly laughed. I'm sorry, I was too nervous and almost peed my pants. Haha. Everyone immediately burst into laughter, and even Yihua laughed. Lai Gu was also using this kind of method to relieve the nervousness in his heart. Taking a deep breath, Lai Gu said seriously. My personality is indeed not that good, but you all know that I am also changing. I will use the rest of my life to properly cherish all of you, and be a good husband, a good father. Everyone immediately applauded, and the applause of over 1,000 people resounded throughout the entire voidless realm. Yihua passed the microphone over to Lai Gu's wife, Still Ran. Right now, Still Ran was very excited and nervous. Recalling back to the first time she met Lai Gu, she was simply terrified. At that time, Lai Gu was still a dog. However, what she didn't expect was that Lai Gu was actually not a dog, but a dragon. At first, she was trembling under the tyranny of this dragon, and she even dragged her 2 good sisters along with her. However, because of such a coincidence, she slowly fell in love with this dragon. It was very dramatic. With a light smile on her face, she said tenderly, Lai Gu, I am honored that you dragged me away that day. This sentence was only known to Lai Gu and Still Ran, and of course Yihua as well. There was no need to say anything. What followed next was Wen Xia and Bai Xiaozhen's heartfelt words. Lai Gu was extremely touched, and he was actually moved to tears. The 4 wives were also infected by Lai Gu, and tears of happiness flowed down from their eyes. Yihua smiled. Look, Lai Gu is actually moved to tears. Everyone, let's give him a round of applause. At this moment, it was Yuhua's turn. Yuhua was also Lai Gu's most favorite woman, and it could be said that she was his first love. Everyone in the team knew that Lai Gu spent an entire year chasing after Yuhua, and they were all very impressed by him. If there is a man who is able to chase after a woman for an entire year, then hurry up and accept him. Yuhua said lightly, Lai Gu, thank you for accompanying me for an entire year, allowing me to experience a different feeling. Actually, I didn't like you in the beginning, but as I got to know you more, I found out that you are very considerate, very concerned about me, and always think for me. Thank you for treating me so well. Right after Yuhua finished speaking, Yihua teased, Bride, you wouldn't be giving me a good person card right now, right? Everyone immediately burst into laughter. His Honor is too funny. Yuhua was also very helpless. His Honor is truly mischievous. However, Yihua's words frightened Lai Gu. He actually really thought that Yuhua would give him a good person card. However, Yuhua said tenderly, Lai Gu, I love you. The audience was silent for a second. In an instant, The entire voidless realm burst into an uproar. Everyone stood up and cheered, and all kinds of whistles could be heard. The entire voidless realm sank into a sea of joy. As the person involved, Ligu had already used his sleeves to wipe his tears. 1 year. He chased after Yuhua for a year. Today he finally heard Yuhua say that she loved him. It was not easy. Yuhua was also very happy. It is my happiness that my subordinates are happy. This time, Ligu is truly not having it easy. Look at this supreme overlord. When have I ever pursued Qinya and Donghuang Baiji? It was the two of them who sent themselves to my doorstep, and this supreme overlord reluctantly accepted them. Thinking up to here, Yihua secretly took a look at his 2 wives. And the 2 wives looked towards their husbands with a gaze filled with hidden bitterness. The meaning was clear. You never pursued us. Yet we gave birth to 2 children for you. You big liar. Yihua hurriedly took the microphone and changed the topic. Everyone, quiet down for a bit. It is time to get to the main topic. Following Yihua's voice, everyone became silent. This is the might that comes from a supreme overlord. It can expand and contract freely. Ligu, are you willing to marry them? Just when Ligu was about to say that he was willing, Yihua interrupted him. Wait a moment, I have forgotten a procedure. Ligu. Your Honor, stop playing around, just let me marry my wives in peace. Yihua looked towards everyone and asked, is there anyone who objects? Chapter 735. Yihua was dumbfounded. Not only was Yihua stupefied, Ligu was also stupefied. The 4 brides were also stupefied, everyone was stupefied. There was really someone who objected. Yihua was just asking according to the procedure. And in the end, there was really someone who objected to it. This caused Yihua's face to immediately darken. Which idiot actually dares to come and ruin my place? And at this time, the expressions of Kai Yun and the others who were seated below changed drastically. The voice was all too familiar. Sky Red. Although White Bones could not be seen at the scene, his face was full of shock. Who would have thought that Cerulean Red would really come? Aren't you a little too daring? Don't you know that His Honor is the one presiding over the wedding? Why didn't you have such guts in the past? Aren't you courting death? The expressions of the subordinates changed in an instant, and they were filled with murderous intent. Who the hell would dare to cause trouble in such an environment? Qinya and Donghuang Baiji both appeared very cold. This is such a joyous occasion, and there are still people who came to make trouble. As the groom, Ligu clenched his fists tightly, and killing intent immediately burst out. Stealing a wife was like killing one's father. Yuhua's face darkened slightly. Although it was just one word, Yuhua could still tell who it was. Sky Red. Reverse. Another voice rang out, and it was filled with incomparable determination. And this figure also appeared, walking in the middle of the aisle paved with white flowers. Yihua's brows were tightly wrinkled as he looked at Sky Hong, and then he looked towards Kai Yun. His intentions were very clear. What does your subordinate mean? How dare you make me lose face? Yes. Song Kong Hong finally finished his sentence, but no one laughed at him, because everyone was confused and even shocked by Song Kong Hong's ugly behavior. This person's appearance was so ugly, yet he still dared to kidnap the bride. Don't you know what you're doing? Moreover, Song Kong Hong was considered one of them. Their own people smashing their own place. Could it be said that His Honor is not good at disciplining his subordinates? There is actually someone who dares to brazenly snatch a marriage. This was completely not putting the supreme sovereign in his eyes. Kai Yun was anxious. She had not expected that Song Kong Hong would really dare to come and snatch the wedding. She had thought that things would get better after today. In the end, not only did he not get any better, but now he was courting death. Luo Ho shouted at Song Kong Hong. What are you doing? Come down quickly. Wild Sand was silent, as if he could understand Sky Red's feelings. The fact that Song Kong Hong dared to come here today meant that he had cast aside his own life and death. He would either succeed or die. Kai Yun shouted out angrily. If you had this kind of courage in the past, Ligu wouldn't even be here. Kai Yun didn't care too much about it and hurriedly walked forward, then leaned over to Yihua's side and said, Your Honor, Song Kong Hong is immature, please quell your anger. Subordinate will bring him away right away. Before Yi Hua could say anything, Kai Yun hurriedly ran towards Song Kong Hong, then pulled onto Song Kong Hong's sleeve. Who knew that Sky Hong would swing his arm? You! Kai Yun's entire person was in a bad mood. He was actually shaken off by his subordinate. An honest man in his outburst was terrifying, and when he became stubborn, no one could stop him. It's over, White Bones whispered. The fact that Yi Hua didn't stop him just now was also giving him face. Just pull him back. He didn't expect that this Blue Sky Red was so thick-head. Sky Red, you sure have guts. Yi Hua shouted out angrily. Luo Ho, White Bones, and Quang Sha couldn't care so much anymore. They immediately stood up and walked to the center of the hall, then kneeled on the ground. Your Honor, please quell your anger. This Blue Sky Red has drunk too much. We will bring him away right now. We have disturbed your Honor's mood. After finished speaking, the three of them prepared to pull Blue Sky Red away, because if Blue Sky Red were to continue acting recklessly, his life would be in danger. Yu Hua looked at the stubborn Blue Sky Red blankly, not knowing what she was thinking about. Lai Gu was angered to the point that his entire body was trembling. If it was someone else, that person would have already become a corpse by now. However, this person is one of us. Without his Honor's order, how am I supposed to kill him? Furthermore, today is the day of the wedding. Seeing blood is very inauspicious. Boom. The three of them who went to pull Blue Sky Red could be seen being directly sent flying by Blue Sky Red and falling onto the crowd. No, go. The last word was shouted out by Blue Sky Red, and all of the grievances that he had been holding back for the past year completely exploded out. A terrifying aura immediately engulfed the entire place. As expected of the leader of South Wuqi's 5 banners, his strength is indeed formidable. Kai Yun glared angrily at Blue Sky Red and shouted out. You chose your own path. Don't you feel ashamed for coming here and causing trouble now? Even I feel ashamed for you. Blue Sky Red's twisted facial features became malevolent, and he suddenly knelt down towards Yi Hua. His knees were deeply sunk into the ground, and the flower petals floated around Blue Sky Red's body, making him appear very miserable. Your Honor. Go. There were 2 seconds between these 2 words. If it was in the past, it would have been at least 1 minute. However, judging from Blue Sky Red's tone, it seemed like he was in great pain when he said those 2 words. This was the most evil curse that came from his race, the curse that caused Blue Sky Red to be unable to speak continuously. The moment he spoke, his soul would be burned. He might even die. Yi Hua looked at Blue Sky Red, who was kneeling on the ground. Yi Hua's expression was still gloomy, but he didn't say anything. After finished speaking those 2 words, Blue Sky Red's forehead was already filled with sweat, and even his tiny eyes were bloodshot, and his entire body was trembling. I like Yu Hua. Blue Sky Red was basically roaring at the top of his lungs. Those 2 words represented his love for Yu Hua that had lasted for over 10,000 years. At the same time, those 2 words were also burning Blue Sky Red's soul. Fine cracks appeared on his bronze-colored skin, and golden flames were burning within those cracks. Blue Sky Red lowered his head and clenched his fists tightly, enduring the pain of the curse. All of this is worth it. For some reason, some people started to admire this ugly man. Although they didn't know why he was in pain, his courage was commendable. When Yu Hua heard Blue Sky Red's confession, she was completely stupefied. Why would Blue Sky Red like me? I actually don't know about it at all. Lai Gu was also very shocked. I have been pursuing Yu Hua for a year, and I have never even seen Blue Sky Red before. I am completely unable to feel any hostility from Blue Sky Red. However, today you came over and said that you like my wife. Are you crazy? Right now Blue Sky Red was indeed crazy. Yi Hua was very shocked. This Blue Sky Red actually likes Yu Hua, and even came to snatch Blue Sky Red's wife without any regard for his life. I remember that in the past, Lai Gu liked Brett too, but Brett liked Ju Tian. After Lai Gu realized this, he didn't continue pursuing Yu Hua. However, this Blue Sky Red was clearly unwilling to give up. Blue Sky Red, do you want to die? Kai Yun shouted out coldly, and concern could be seen within her eyes. She knew the consequences of Blue Sky Red's actions. Blue Sky Red was basically using his life to confess. Flagmaster, Let subordinate finish speaking. Blue Sky Red said gravely. Along with Blue Sky Red's words, the cracks on his skin gradually expanded, and those eerie golden flames actually started burning out from his skin, causing everyone to feel extremely terrified. Chapter 736. Li Hun saw the flames under Song Kong Hong's skin and said absent-mindedly, This is a mystical flame. Everyone at the table frowned at Li Hun's words. And when Yi Hua saw it, he revealed a surprised expression. Previously, he heard from Yi Zizi that the sky crimson was a ball of fire. He thought that it was just an ordinary elemental fire. He never would have thought that Sky Red's true form was actually a ball of deviant fire. And this deviant fire was currently devouring his true form, the life form of the heavenly flame. This is a race that Yi Hua has never seen before. No wonder I heard from Kaiyun that this Blue Sky Red is the leader of the 5 flags. At this moment, Moonlight finally spoke. Little Red, stop talking. Yu Hua shouted at Song Kong Hong. Over the past 10,000 years, Yu Hua had treated Song Kong Hong as a close friend, a good friend who could be said to be sincere. However, she had never thought that they would develop into a couple. This was not a problem of Blue Sky Red's ugliness. It was a matter of whether she liked him or not. If she really liked him, Yu Hua wouldn't mind pursuing him. They were just good friends. But now that Song Kong Hong had broken this relationship, their relationship would probably be strained. After all, everything can be said in private. His honor is presiding over my wedding, and it's even my wedding day. Isn't this the same as ruining things? The main point was still the kind of reckless destruction. It was equivalent to saying that if you didn't come with me, I would die in front of you. It was extremely extreme. However, if one were to look at the problem from Song Kong Hong's point of view, then the situation would be completely different. He was not trying to blackmail Yu Hua. He just wanted to speak his mind, no matter what the outcome would be, because he had been holding it in for over 10,000 years. Hearing that Yu Hua seemed to be concerned about Blue Sky Red, Lai Gu felt a bit uncomfortable in his heart. After all, Yu Hua was the woman he liked. Which man could stand his woman getting involved with another man? Although Lai Gu was a little angry right now, it was not to the extent where he would lose his rationality and blame Yu Hua. What do you mean? Yi Hua asked gravely. Yu Hua immediately prostrated herself on the ground and said respectfully, Your Honor, Blue Sky Red is a kind of curse that one is born with. One's speech cannot be coherent, and if one's speech is coherent, the deviant fire within one's body will cause a backlash. A deep look could be seen on Yi Hua's face. The curse that seemed to be simple was actually the most vicious one. He couldn't even finish his sentence. Who could endure such a curse? No wonder Song Kong Hong spoke so slowly. It was because of the curse. Yu Hua, I am asking you, do you know about this matter? Don't lie to me. Yi Hua questioned coldly. If Yu Hua knew. Before I settle my personal matters, I agreed to Lai Gu's marriage proposal. This is a kind of deception. It was better not to have such a woman. Your Honor, subordinate doesn't know. If subordinate knows, I will definitely tell you clearly. Yu Hua said sincerely. Hearing what his wife said, Lai Gu slightly heaved a sigh of relief. So it turns out that Yu Hua doesn't know about it. Then it must be Song Kong Hong's wishful thinking. Everyone finally learned the truth. They suddenly realized that Song Kong Hong, who was kneeling on the ground, was very pitiful. He was still suffering from the searing pain. This was the burning of an exceptional flame. It was not something an ordinary person could endure. At that time, when Yi Hua was fighting against Yi Zizi directly fainted from the heat. Now Blue Sky Red was still holding on. This kind of infatuated man caused the females in Voidless Realm to exclaim in admiration. Although he looks ugly, his heart is good. In actuality, Song Kong Hong's facial features weren't very bad. The main point was that other people's facial features were scattered, while his facial features were squeezed together. His eyes were also very small, and if he were to go out at night, he would definitely scare people to death. Hearing what Yu Hua said, Yi Hua nodded his head. Lai Gu, who was at the side, helped Yu Hua up and asked with concern, Are you all right? Lai Gu, I'm sorry. Yu Hua felt that she had to take responsibility for such a thing. She made her husband lose face. Lai Gu laughed. It's fine as long as I explain it clearly. Towards Lai Gu's magnanimity, Yuhua felt that she didn't misjudge Lai Gu. Regarding this farce, Yihua was also very helpless. Not punishing Song Konghong doesn't seem to be a bad idea. As for punishing Song Konghong, this Song Konghong is also a sentimental person. For the sake of the love of his heart, he didn't hesitate to let the exceptional flame backfire on him. Exceptional flames aren't anything fun. Song Konghong, you have also heard what I said just now. I am also a magnanimous person, but I cannot let you off lightly. You will properly reflect on yourself for 3 years in South Wuqi realm. This punishment was undoubtedly the lightest punishment, and it was basically the same as not punishing Song Konghong at all. In any case, Song Konghong had been staying in South Wuqi realm all this while. Kai Yun hurriedly gave his thanks. Your honor has bestowed blessings upon me. This subordinate cannot thank you enough. I haven't finished. However, just when everyone thought that the farce was over, Song Konghong spoke again. It was another 5 words, but the cracks on his skin were getting bigger and bigger. Even the golden doubt was coming out. The temperature at the scene rose sharply. You can't afford to offend an honest man. When Kai Yun heard this, he wanted to kick someone. In the past, no one chased after Yuehua, and you didn't chase after her. Then, when Yuehua was chased by someone, you still didn't chase after her. Now that Yuehua is going to get married, you come here and act like a madman. However, everyone was curious as to what Song Konghong had to say. Since such an infatuated man had to endure the pain, they decided to let him finish. In the past, Yihua felt that a man who was infatuated with love was a sign of weakness, but now he didn't feel that way anymore. At that time, when I was in conflict with Qingye and the others, I was also like that. Only someone who is deeply in love would be like that. The scariest thing was to fall in love with someone you shouldn't love. Speak. If you're done, get out of this sovereign's sight. No matter what, this Song Konghong still dared to offend the Supreme Overlord. The Supreme Overlord naturally didn't have a good expression on his face. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji thought that Yihua was going to fly into a rage again, but this time, Yihua didn't fly into a rage and even let Song Konghong finish speaking. This was rather surprising. Lai Gu was changing. Wasn't Yihua also changing? He was becoming more and more humane. Enduring the burning of doubt, Song Konghong slowly stood up. Every single movement of his seemed to be able to cause this 2 meters tall giant to fall down. Song Konghong had also heard Yuehua's words just now, and this undoubtedly gave Song Konghong another ruthless stab in his heart. However, this time, Song Konghong didn't cower. This was just like that sentence. I, Song Konghong, am a famous person. Not to mention, I like your wife. Song Konghong finally saw Yuehua, who was wearing a wedding dress. Yuehua is truly beautiful today, so beautiful that I feel suffocated. During the past month, how could I not have imagined myself wearing a groom's attire, tightly holding onto Yuehua's hand, and saying words of protecting her? However, today, I am not the groom. I am just a person who made his honor and flag master lose face. Yuehua. This was the first time that Song Konghong called out Yuehua's full name. Although Song Konghong's appearance was ugly, his slightly magnetic voice was exceptionally pleasant to the ears. Adding on to the atmosphere, Song Konghong sounded very miserable. Some of Voidless Realm's little girls were moved to tears. What a man who is infatuated with love. If there is a man who treats me like this, I will not hesitate to marry that man. However, the crack on Song Konghong's body became bigger once again. Asking for votes? Chapter 737. Kai Yun didn't stop Song Konghong this time. Some things can only be relieved if they are spoken out. If they are kept in their hearts, something bad will happen. And looking at Yuehua, it seems like, sigh, if I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have acted in the first place. Yuehua, who was wearing a white wedding dress, looked at Song Konghong, who was not far away. As a friend, Yuehua was worried for Song Konghong, but she was already Lai Gu's wife today. Therefore, Yuehua didn't want to see Song Konghong suffer like this. In terms of time, it was 10,000 years and 1 year. This was a very terrifying difference. However, when the person that was fated to appear, It had nothing to do with time. The entire place was silent as they listened to the words of this infatuated man. Yi Hua let out a breath, then waved his hand, and an ice-cold mist enveloped Song Konghong, reducing his pain by a bit. As a leader, one must have dignity. One must also have compassion. Only then would one be able to convince his subordinates. Song Konghong also felt the chilliness on his body, and he thanked his honor for letting him finish speaking. I feel very inferior, because I look ugly and speak slowly. Everyone who sees me will reveal fear. Yu Hua, you are the first girl to speak to me. You didn't look down on me. I. Speaking up to hear. Song Konghong's voice began to tremble intensely. Because he spoke too much, the deviant fire on his body became even more vigorous, as if it was going to burn Song Konghong. Yi Hua didn't want Song Konghong to suffer a backlash from himself. After all, Song Konghong was a humanoid deviant fire, and it was worth studying. Thus, Yi Hua took out a set of profound ice armor from his storage ring and placed it on Song Konghong's body. This set of armor was able to slightly resist against the deviant fire, but it wouldn't be able to last for too long. Although Song Konghong's words were intermittent, the meaning that he was trying to express was clear. Towards such an ugly man, it was normal for him to feel inferior. For a girl to take the initiative to talk to him, this was a kind of charity for him. This was a form of charity for him. Under such circumstances, how could Sky Hong not like Moonlight Flower? Looking at Sun Fong, even she was moved. Sun Fong felt that Song Konghong was truly pitiful. The only girl that he talked to is going to marry someone else today. Who else would talk to him in the future? Everyone present suddenly felt that Yue Hua on the stage was a scumbag. How could she not want such a good man? This was the first time that Yue Hua heard these words, and she was very surprised. I didn't expect that I have such an existence in Xiao Hong's heart. Some misunderstandings were accumulated over a long period of time. Furthermore, Sky Red had been a coward for 10,000 years, making it even worse. If he chased after her for 10,000 years, he would make a girl feel dead. In the beginning, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji felt that Sky Hong was here to cause trouble. However, right now they no longer thought so. This was a very stupid man, so stupid that people could not bear to see this scene. Lai Gu was also shocked by this man in front of him. If this matter didn't happen today, perhaps, Yu Hua would have been his wife. Fortunately, it didn't happen in the past, but today. Song Konghong, you are a brave man. I Lai Gu admire you. However, Yu Hua is now my wife. I will treat her well for the rest of my life. Other men can forget about touching her. White Bones and the others who were standing below the stage were also very depressed. If you had said these words earlier, you and Yue Hua would have had a child. After putting on the profound ice armor, Sky Hong looked much better. However, it could be seen that the shiny platinum profound ice armor was showing signs of turning red. This meant that the abnormal flame was currently corroding the cold air that the profound ice armor was emitting. No matter what, the profound ice armor was a prehistoric artifact that Yi Hua had collected, and it would at least be able to last for 1 minute under the influence of the abnormal flame. Firmness blossomed out from Song Konghong's small eyes. Yu Hua, if there comes a day when you remember who had liked you before, that person would definitely be me. If there comes a day when I no longer like you, that person would definitely be me. These were the most complete words that Sky Hong had ever said in his entire life, and they were also the most sincere words. Even if Yu Hua were to get married today, Sky Hong would still like her. This heart of his would never change, unless he died. Crack. The prehistoric artifact, profound ice armor, suddenly let out a loud sound, and cracks actually appeared on the surface of the armor. The entire armor suddenly exploded, and Sky Hong's body was instantly enveloped by the abnormal flame. A terrifying scream of pain burst out from Sky Hong's throat, and the golden abnormal flame rushed straight into the sky of Voidless Realm, forming a golden pillar of fire. Although the scene was very spectacular, everyone's heart was heavy. Many girls were sobbing, and even Zishan was crying in Yi Hong's embrace. Because Sky Hong's matter made Zishan think of her and Yi Hong's experiences. They were also husband and wife that had been tempered through life and death situations. Regarding what Sky Hong said just now, it was also very moving. Although it was a bit silly, It was also a type of obsession towards liking someone. That was why obsession was a very scary thing. It could allow a person to become strong, but it could also instantly destroy a person. Looking at the abnormal flame that was rushing into the sky, Yihua's brows tightly wrinkled. This can't go on. Just as Yihua was thinking of how to deal with the situation, Yihua suddenly stretched out her delicate hand, and a pillar of water suddenly attacked towards Sky Hong. Such a scene caused everyone to exclaim in admiration. This man is fire, and that woman is water. Fire and water. They are fated to not be together. Water is Yuhua's life form, and if she were to fight against the abnormal flame like this, she would definitely be injured. However, it seemed like this was the only way to reduce the amount of the abnormal flame and allow Sky Hong to keep his life. Yuhua! Lai Gu cried out in surprise. Because when he saw Yuhua, he felt a bit uncomfortable. Yuhua looked at Lai Gu and said tenderly, Lai Gu, Sky Hong is like this because of me. That's why I am doing this, can you understand me? No matter what, Sky Hong and Yuhua were both members of Five Flags Academy. Even if they weren't husband and wife, they were still comrades and friends. How could Yuhua possibly watch as Sky Hong was being devoured by the abnormal flame? Lai Gu let out a heavy breath. And I understand. Lai Gu, thank you for being able to understand me. Yuhua, you are my wife now, there is no need to be so polite, right? And I won't be polite to you in the future. Yuhua smiled gently, then began suppressing the terrifying abnormal flame with a serious look. As the leader, Yuhua definitely wouldn't sit by and do nothing. And Kai Yin was the same as well. Under the cooperation of the three of them, they were finally able to suppress the abnormal flame within Sky Hong's body. However, that strong body of Sky Hong seemed like it was going to split apart, and it was being connected by strands of spiritual energy. Your Honor, please allow subordinate to bring him back for treatment. Kai Yin hurriedly said. Yi Hua waved his hand, indicating to the other members of South Wuqi Academy that they could return back. While carrying Sky Hong, Kuang Sha and Luo Ho disappeared from the wedding venue. Chapter 738. Lai Gu lightly hugged onto Yuhua, while Yuhua tightly hugged onto Lai Gu. Actually, a loose man would only become a completely different person once he had someone he liked. He would be extra considerate and take care of his wife. This could also be considered a transformation from a boy to a man. The current Lai Gu was like this, giving people a kind of steady feeling, not the kind of feeling of a prodigal son who could entrust his entire life to others. Yihua took a deep breath. The nature of today's wedding has completely changed. I, the Supreme Overlord, don't know how to continue. It seems that next time, I, the Supreme Overlord, should just sit down and watch. It was really unbearable to host a wedding. Cough. The wedding is just a form, everyone. Don't mind these details, having a perfect ending is the best. Yihua forced himself to talk awkwardly. And after he finished speaking, he felt that it was a bit low, and it didn't conform to the style of the Supreme Overlord. Your Honor, Yuhua shouted out lightly to Yihua. Yihua went into a daze for a moment, but he still passed the microphone over to Yuhua. Yuhua left Lai Gu's embrace and looked at the man in front of her. I really don't dare to believe that he is a dragon. Just look at the scene earlier. If it was a dragon, the dragon would have long turned hostile and not recognized the human. However, Lai Gu didn't do so, and he was still taking care of his own thoughts. This was a dragon that cared about relationships. Towards Red Sky, Yuhua only had a friendship of over 10,000 years. But towards Lai Gu, it was a kind of love. She handed over the rest of her life to Lai Gu, spending the rest of her life together with him. Yuhua believed that Lai Gu is a good man. Lai Gu, I want to marry you. Are you willing to marry us? Yuhua was still very smart, and she took care of the other three women. Lai Gu was very excited, because Yuhua said that she wants to marry him and become his wife. It was worth it. Everything was worth it. I'm willing. Lai Gu let out a long roar, and faintly, a dragon's roar could be faintly heard as it shook the sky. Bang bang bang. Under Wei Chang's control, fireworks blossomed in the sky of Voidless Realm. Suddenly, Yihua snapped his fingers. Voidless Realm could be seen gradually being enveloped by darkness. Meanwhile, Yihua walked down the stage and tightly hugged onto Qinya and Donghuang Baiji. In actuality, Song Konghong's words just now had touched Yihua's heart. Back then, this sovereign was also a street rat, the kind that everyone would beat up on seeing. I never thought that such a day would come, nor did I have any extravagant hopes. However, the heavens are not unkind to me. My beautiful wife, my adorable child, and my loyal subordinates have all been given to me. I, the Supreme Overlord, am simply too outstanding. I love the two of you. Yihua hugged onto his two wives and said slowly while looking at the beautiful fireworks in the sky. Qinya and Donghuang Baiji went into a daze for a moment. Then immediately after, they smiled. This moment was truly too blissful. We love you too. It was very rare for Yihua to talk about love, but when the atmosphere was right, he couldn't help but say it out. At this moment, Brett was hugging absolute heaven in his arms as he looked at the fireworks in the sky. Just now, absolute heaven had remained silent. He seemed to have seen himself in sky red. Only when he lost something would he know how to cherish it. Losing Brett at that time was indeed very painful, but fortunately he exchanged his life for it. Lifting his head slightly to look at Brett, absolute heaven suddenly hugged Brett's face and kissed him. Brett was stunned for a moment, and then he smiled. It sure isn't easy to be able to be together with absolute heaven. It's a pity that Sky Red can't be together with Yihua. I hope that Sky Red will be able to meet a girl who truly likes him in the future, because Sky Red is a handsome man in his heart. Face lovers, please take a detour. When the fireworks finished, Voidless Realm lit up once again, and Yihua shouted out loudly, "Send them to the bridal chamber, then make a scene in the bridal chamber." The entire place was filled with shouts, especially that "make a scene in the bridal chamber." It simply exploded. The interlude just now was indeed depressing, but under Yihua's guidance, the atmosphere quickly became better, and the wedding proceeded as per normal. After making a scene in the bridal chamber, the newlyweds naturally had to be given some space. Lai Gu's three wives were still very sensible, and they gave this moment to Yihua. After all, it was their first time doing it, and Yihua naturally had to do it in a good environment. Lai Gu and Yihua could be seen sitting on the bed. Lai Gu's fingers were trembling. In the past, he would often just directly pounce onto the other party and use all of his strength to do it, not caring about the other party's feelings. However, when facing Yihua, Lai Gu had all kinds of worries, fearing that he would hurt Yihua. Right now, Yihua was also very nervous. She slightly lowered her head and waited for Lai Gu. However, 30 minutes passed by. Lai Gu still did not move, and was currently letting his imagination run wild. However, Yihua could not take it anymore and asked lightly, "Lai Gu, is it inconvenient for you today?" Hearing Yuhua's question, Lai Gu was stupefied. Inconvenient? No. Lai Gu hurriedly said, feeling that his IQ was not enough. Then why are you? Yuhua asked shyly. How can I let a girl start this kind of thing? Lai Gu hurriedly explained. It's not that, I am a bit nervous. I will go to the toilet first. Without waiting for Yuhua to speak, Lai Gu slipped away, leaving behind Yuhua, who was sitting stupidly on the big red bed. On the night of the wedding, the groom used the excuse of peeing to abandon his beautiful wife. This is too awesome. Lai Gu stood outside the door and gasped for breath. Why am I so nervous? This is completely not in line with my personality. After calming down for a long time, Lai Gu finally stabilized his state of mind and walked into the room again. Yuhua could be seen lying on the bed, and her wedding dress had already fallen to the side. Lai Gu swallowed his saliva, very excited. I am finally going to offer my goddess, who would be able to understand this kind of excitement. Mustering up his courage, Lai Gu walked to the side of the bed and saw Yuhua looking at him shyly. However, just as Lai Gu was about to say something, his eyeballs almost popped out. Another Yuhua could be seen appearing on the blanket. This. Not done yet. Immediately after, another Yuhua appeared. Lai Gu felt that his heart was about to jump out. Yuhua truly understands me too well. Yuhua, who was in the middle, could be heard asking shyly. Lai Gu, is 3 enough? F***K. I am actually able to marry such a sensible wife. I did not waste my 1 year of chasing after you. Enough. Lai Gu didn't know what to say anymore. The three Yuhua could be seen sitting up on the bed and carefully undressing their husbands. Lai Gu was stupefied from start to finish. This is the first time I saw Yuhua acting like this. I am very embarrassed. However, I was pushed down by them. So exciting. I feel that I am even more blessed than His Honor. Needless to say, Yuhua was indeed a little bit envious of Yuhua. Yuhua is not an ordinary woman. Marrying one of her is equivalent to marrying 100 women, who would have the ability to do that. Lai Gu is the real winner in life. The wedding finally ended, and everyone's lives returned back to normal. Those who were not strong enough would start training. Those who wanted to give birth to children would use a bit more strength, and those who wanted to drink more tonics. However, to Yuhua, the boring days had arrived again. I really want to die. Chapter 739. Since he was going back, he had to make a series of plans. He planned my ass. Do I even need a plan? If you're not satisfied, then let's fight. I have so many powerful subordinates, so why should I be afraid of those people from the Kangluo continent? For years later, at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, Qi Shuwen was currently sitting in his dragon palace and looking at a piece of jade tablet in his hand. This was a gift from the system a year ago. According to the system, this thing could lead to a vast world where experts were as common as clouds. It was a world suitable for cultivation. After Qi Shuwen obtained this jade token, he did not rush to leave. Instead, he thought about it for a year. What were the benefits of leaving and staying? Although this place was small, at least there was a place for him to stay. If he went there, he would not know what was going on and would be beaten to death. But after a year of consideration, Qi Shuwen decided to go to a wider world. There is no end to training. The resources here are more or less all used up, but they are still too scarce. The most important thing was, for such a powerful expert to appear in such a small place. Voidless Realm and South Wuqi were simply unable to contend against such a powerful expert. Thus, it would be better for Voidless Realm and South Wuqi to go to other places and dominate the world. Looking at the jade token in his hand, Qi Shuwen frowned. He crushed the jade tablet. Qi Shuwen and the entire dragon palace could be seen suddenly disappearing at the bottom of the sea, as if they had never appeared before. In a mountain village in Thailand, Ba slowly exhaled and opened his eyes. The changes of 5 years had made Ba look more masculine. The muscles on his body were very uniform and had an explosive effect. Master, we should be able to return now. Ba felt that he was almost done with his cultivation. He couldn't always hide abroad, right? That would be too unmanly. We're going back, but we're not returning to our country, said Feng Lao faintly. Then where are we going? Ba was puzzled. Old Feng said in a deep voice, under the highest god's realm, there is a vast land called Kangluo continent. The restrictions here are still too small. You should go there to develop. Kangluo continent? An alternate world? Ba asked curiously, his eyes flashing with excitement. It seemed that Ba was also a very competitive person. You can understand it this way. That place is full of danger, but it's also full of opportunities. However, it's just a stepping stone for you. Old Feng's words made Ba very excited. He wanted to become stronger. At that time, he would not be afraid of anyone, nor would he be threatened by anyone. Master, I'll listen to you. All right. Xinba, you cultivate well. Master will protect and escort you. Thank you, Master. Master's enmity is the disciple's enmity, as expected of my disciple. The two of us will go to the Kangluo continent. As soon as Crazy Elder stopped speaking, Ba's figure disappeared from the small rundown house. In the office building on the top floor of the Peace Association, Lord Jiu was playing with Xiaobao. This was the golden retriever that Bai Cixin had bought back then. It was now 5 years old, and its golden fur was shining. Lord Jiu had fed it well. Lil Bao, it's been 5 years. My Peace Association has been going downhill. Sometimes I really want to give up. Lord Jiu rubbed Lil Bao's head. Lil Bao looked at his master and stuck out his tongue. Xiaobao, how about we change a place to live? It's really tiring here. Lord Jiu let out a deep breath. He seemed to be very tired and wanted to change a place to live. Woof. Lord Jiu laughed. Xiaobao, do you have the same idea? How about we leave now? Let's go on a trip when we want to. Woof. Lord Jiu patted on Xiaobao's head, then took out the cosmos sack that Qing Tian gave him back then. Within the cosmos sack, there was a small box, and within the box, there was a piece of paper and a mirror. Lord Jiu had seen that piece of paper 5 years ago, and it had been destroyed long ago. The rough meaning of the piece of paper was that this mirror was a teleportation artifact that could only be used once. As for where it could be teleported to, Lord Jiu had no idea, because Lord Jiu was now a loner, and if one were to talk about the person that was closest to him, it would only be Xiaobao. Life is very gloomy and boring. I might as well go to another world and take a look. I might as well bring Xiaobao out to relax. Whether or not I can come back is no longer important. Lord Jiu placed the copper mirror on the office table and placed it towards himself. Afterward, Lord Jiu carried Xiaobao on his body. This little fellow has become quite a bit heavier. After stroking Xiaobao for a bit, Lord Jiu stretched out his finger and injected a strand of spiritual energy into the copper mirror. The copper mirror could be seen emitting a powerful radiance, which instantly absorbed Lord Jiu and Xiaobao. The radiance gradually dispersed, and there was not a single person in the office. There was only the copper mirror on the table, and the surface of the copper mirror was already cracked. Southerning family. Ingkongsher stood in front of the ancient beast Heavy Dust Cave. Right now his expression was very strange, and there was even a fake mustache stuck on his mouth, making him look like a man. However, today, Ingkongsher was going to do what a man should do, and that was to challenge the ancient beast Heavy Dust Cave. If I succeed in the challenge, I will rush to Voidless Realm and propose marriage. Who cares about life and death? The person that the Empress is going to marry back then is me, Ingkongsher. I am the Empress's man. With a firm conviction, Ingkongsher took the first step and slowly walked down the cave. As the coldness became stronger, Ingkongsher started to panic a bit. Back then, Big Brother died in the cave as well. If I were to die today, I can at least give my big brother an explanation. Empress. I, Ingkongsher, am definitely going to marry you. Walking down to the underground cave, Ingkongsher hugged his chest with both of his hands. So cold, upon thinking about that terrifying ancient beast, Heavy Dust Cave, I can't help but shiver a bit. I won't be stomped into meat paste by it, right? Should I go back and think about it? After all, marrying the Empress is not a small matter. I should go back and discuss it with my Lord Father. I am still too hasty. I should go back and plan properly first. However, when Ingkongsher turned around and prepared to leave, a bright red fingernail poked in front of Ingkongsher, causing the entire ground to tremble. Ingkongsher felt that his back instantly turned cold. However, at the same time when his back turned cold, there was also a wave of hot air that hit his back, bringing along a fishy smell. Right now, Ingkongsher was panicking badly. He felt that he was going to be eaten up very soon. Who can come and save me? I, Ingkongsher, am willing to do anything for you for my entire life. I don't want anything. God, quickly come and save me. I still don't want to die. I still haven't married the Empress. Ingkongsher looked at the bright red fingernail that was raised up high, and it was clearly aimed towards his head. Boom. Heavy Dust Cave was a ferocious beast. It didn't have any mercy in its heart. The bright red fingernail ferociously dropped down, poking out a dent on the ground. However, when Ingkongsher moved his fingernail away, he was very puzzled. Where is he? Longan City Leisure Bar. Right now Leisure Bar's business is temporarily suspended. The opening time is unknown. Please look forward to it. Meanwhile, in the lobby of Leisure Bar, a chilling aura pervaded the air. Yi Hua stood in front of the bar counter and looked at his subordinates. Today is a good day. Why do I say that? Chapter 740. Standing beside Yi Hua were Qingya and Donghuang Baiji. Of course, there was also his beautiful sister-in-law. These three women were simply so beautiful that they could kill a person. From this, it could be seen that Yi Hua's eyesight was very sharp. Out of thousands of women, he had chosen the three of them. Dong Huangli was standing at the side. Right now, Dong Huangli was already more than 8 years old, and she was quite a bit taller than before. Dong Huangli was about the same height as Yi Zizi, and Dong Huangli could already be counted as a little beauty. Dong Huangli had inherited her father's good points, and if another 10 years were to pass, Dong Huangli would definitely become a great beauty. As the younger brother, Yi Yan was already 6 years old, and he was about the same height as the older sister, Dong Huangli. Yi Yan had delicate features, and there was a smile on the corner of his mouth. Dragon Abyss. At this time, Yi Yan gave off a very strong sense of affinity, just like a neighbor's little brother. He would definitely grow up to be a warm man. Meanwhile, God Yi, who was standing behind Yi Yan, was different. Although he was only 5 years old, his little face was cold and penetrating. He was exactly the same as his father, emotionless and solemn. Yi Lu, who was next to her, was the same. She was as cold as ice, as if nothing could affect her emotions. She was really a little cold beauty. Looking at the entire team, there was no change from 5 years ago. As one of the 7 deadly sins, Yihua's direct subordinates stood at the very front, and even Kai Yun had to stand behind the 7 deadly sins. However, they stood according to their status. In the past 4 years, all of the subordinates' families had been harmonious. There were no outbreaks of mistresses, and they were all satisfied with their current state. Yihua even praised Lai Gu. During these 4 years, Lai Gu had simply become a good man of the new century. In Yihua's eyes, he felt that Lai Gu was only 30% hot, and would definitely go and look for other women. However, the truth was not like that. From what Qingye said, right now, Lai Gu is wholeheartedly treating his 4 wives well, bringing them to play all over the world, just like an underling. Furthermore, at home, Lai Gu is cooking and cleaning. In the past, Lai Gu was like a big uncle at home, but now, ever since Lai Gu got married, he had become a typical family man. For this, Qingye even asked me to learn from Lai Gu. The Supreme Overlord immediately thought to himself, "What the F***K? That very night, I will call Lai Gu to go to the bar." Who knew that Lai Gu would bring all 4 of his wives out? I really want to stew Lai Gu. Now all the women in the team only had one thing to say to their husbands. Learn from how Lai Gu dotes on his wife. Do Fushir was very happy that he was no longer the one who stuck his head out. However, Lai Gu had an indifferent expression on his face. So what if I dote on my wife? I like it. During these 4 years, Yuhua had also enjoyed the taste of happiness. Lai Gu was truly good to me, just like how he was when he was pursuing me. There was no difference at all. Sometimes he would even give me a small surprise. He truly knows how to make my wife happy. If Sky Hong had half of Lai Gu's EQ, he wouldn't have missed out on Yuhua. During the past 4 years, Song Kong Hong had been staying in South Wuqi Banner. Unless Yihua called for a meeting, he wouldn't come out. He seemed to be studying, but who knew? At this moment, Song Kong Hong was also standing in the crowd. She seemed very calm and there was nothing unusual about her. Yuhua, who was standing behind Lai Gu, was also very normal. Actually, ever since that day, other than meeting each other in meetings, the two of them basically did not speak to each other. Lai Gu even generously asked Yuhua to go and guide Blue Sky Hong. It wasn't that Yuhua hadn't tried to talk to her, but Song Kong Hong wasn't willing to meet her, so this situation was created. As for Ju Tian, he was still the same as before, lying in the bosom of his 3 wives and sleeping every day. From now on, our vacation ends. From today onwards, we will enter a state of combat readiness. Yihua's gaze swept across his subordinates and shouted out in a low voice. Hearing what his honor said, all of Yihua's subordinates revealed out their desire to fight. They were also bored to the point that they were starting to get anxious. Because right now, there wasn't anyone who would come and provoke Voidless Realm and South Wuqi Banner. If it was 1 or 2 years, it would still be fine. He felt uncomfortable all over. His honor's announcement of his return is simply too great. That place is truly a crazy world. Subordinates are willing to follow in his honor's footsteps and exterminate all evil. All of Yihua's subordinates kneeled on the ground and shouted out. Yihua nodded his head silently. This is the aura that a leader should have. Not bad. Very good. Everyone get up. Thank you, Your Honor. Yihua paused for a moment, then said again. Let us shout out our slogan one more time. The hall immediately quietened down. Slogan? When did we have a slogan? All of Yi Hua's subordinates were stupefied. Even Qinya, who was beside Yi Hua, was puzzled. When did we have a slogan? Suddenly, Yi Zizi seemed to have thought of something and immediately shouted out. The team sure has a good idea. Following Yi Zizi's shout, everyone immediately understood what Yi Zizi meant and shouted out in unison. Do it steadily. Do a report every day. How can a team not be good? Yi Hua looked at his subordinates in astonishment, then suddenly clapped his hands and stood up. All right. All of Yi Hua's subordinates let out a sigh of relief. That scared me to death. We are going to do it according to this slogan. I hope that you all will remember this slogan. Subordinate will definitely memorize this slogan every day. Yi Hua paused for a moment, then said gravely, All right. Let the heavens see where we will land in Kangluo continent, and what will be the first thing that we will do? Seize the palace. Do Fusher shouted out excitedly. Li Hun, who was beside Do Fusher, immediately covered her husband's mouth. It's to win people over with virtue. Li Hun laughed. Yi Hua really wanted to give a slap to Li Hun. To actually dare to say seize the palace in front of my wife. Am I that vulgar? Do I even need to seize it? Do I look like that kind of man who doesn't have any dignity? Superficial. Pedantic. What Li Hun said is right. I am going to win people over with virtue. Yi Hua said gravely. The first thought that emerged in the minds of all of Yi Hua's subordinates was, why don't they believe me? What His Honor is saying right now should all be antonyms. When the time comes, I will just have to do the opposite. Subordinates that are full of brains are the most terrifying. Even Qing Yutong, who was at the side, didn't believe that Yi Hua would win people over with virtue. Every single time, he would use violence to conquer others and all kinds of threats. But, I just like this kind of brother-in-law. If a man isn't bad, women won't love him. This sentence wasn't without reason. When it came to a suitable amount of badness, women would love it to death. Just like Lai Gu. And Blue Sky Hong belonged to the category of honest and well-behaved people. Let's not talk too much. We will send it out now. Yi Hua could be seen slowly raising his hand. Pack. With a snap of Yi Hua's fingers, everyone in the hall disappeared. The lights of the bar gradually dimmed, and Yi Hua's vacation had ended. Now he was waiting for his next vacation. However, everyone seemed to have forgotten about a person. Death Assassin. This skeleton that had been forgotten for close to 6 years was cautiously guarding Long Outyin. Outside the small thatched cottage, Death Assassin was currently standing at the side and watching Long Outyin train with his sword. From time to time, Death Assassin would walk up to Long Outyin to guide him. Chapter 741. Dad, Uncle Skeleton, Mom is done cooking. A chubby little man could be seen walking out of the thatched cottage and shouting. A happy smile could be seen on his little face. Meanwhile, Meng Meng, who was inside the thatched cottage, was currently carrying the dishes onto the table with a gentle smile on her face. This family of 3 was very satisfied living here. Long Outyin kept his sword and lightly let out a breath. After training with Death Assassin, only then did he realize how big of a gap there was between him and Death Assassin. He was basically not Death Assassin's opponent. If Death Assassin wanted to, he would be able to instantly kill me. This is truly terrifying. Master, come in and eat. Don't always go back to the cottage when we are eating. You are making me very embarrassed. Long Outyin hurriedly pulled Death Assassin and pulled him into the cottage. It would be fine if Long Outyin didn't pull Death Assassin, but Long Outyin unexpectedly pulled Death Assassin into the cottage. This must be heaven's will. Death Assassin doesn't need to eat, and of course he can't eat either. Could it be that you want me to sit at the side and watch the family of 3 eat? After being pulled into the cottage by his disciple, Death Assassin could only sit down. Quickly come and taste the dishes made by my wife, it's super delicious. Long Outyin was no longer the Long Outyin from back then. He seemed to have changed into a different person. He no longer had that arrogant look, and he treated others very well. The main point was that he no longer had any thoughts of having a harem. He only wanted to accompany his wife and child. Uncle Skeleton, the dishes made by my mother are really delicious. The little fellow Long Yang said while grinning, and he even placed food on Death Assassin's bowl. Meng Meng felt embarrassed by what the father and son said. It's just plain tea and plain food. Wife, look at how modest you are. Master is not an outsider. What's more, isn't it great that Master is accompanying us to eat together? Death Assassin. However, just as Death Assassin was feeling gloomy, he suddenly felt a strange aura. It seems like he is going to leave this world. What's going on? Long Outyin felt the change in Death Assassin. Master, what's wrong? Death Assassin grabbed onto Long Outyin's wrist. A pair of hollow eyes flickered with red light, and his body seemed to be fading. Long Outyin, who was grabbed onto by Death Mage, was also fading. This is definitely because my master is going to leave this world. And as a summoned product, I will leave together with my master. However, he still had to complete his master's orders. He had to watch over Long Outyin. Outyin, what happened to you? Meng Meng also grabbed her husband's arm. Dad, Mum, what happened to you too? Long Yang was frightened as he cried and shouted while hugging onto his mother. Before Long Outyin could ask, the four of them disappeared from the hut in an instant. The dishes on the table were still steaming hot, but no one would taste them again. Where is this place? Yihua asked gravely. His complexion was a bit bad, because this place was different from what I imagined it to be. Looking at the surroundings, Zhang Xian saw that the trees were withered, and there was no green grass on the ground. There were no fresh flowers to welcome the arrival of the main body. There were only bone-chilling astral winds. Yihua's words caused all of Yihua's subordinates to be stupefied. Zishan and Li Hun were both women from the god's realm. They had never been to the enormous Kangluo continent before, so they did not know about it. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji were even more clueless. Donghuang Li and Yi Yan were already happily running around and playing. Yi Lu and Gadia's eyes were filled with excitement. They knew why their father wanted to wait for 5 years. It was because he wanted them to grow up. This meant that his father was about to give him a mission. I am so excited. I must definitely complete the mission that my father gave me, and let my father know that I am capable of carrying the entire Yi family on my shoulders. The few people from the 7 deadly sins didn't know where they were either, because the place that I fought with his honor at that time is quite beautiful. Unlike this desolate place, this place is too miserable. Wei Chong said respectfully, Your Honor, please quell your anger. From the environment here, it can be seen that the place that we appeared in should be in the north, and this place doesn't have any grass or trees, so we should be in the west direction of the north. Wei Chong was guessing based on his own experience. Hearing Wei Chong saying that it was in the west direction of the north, Yihua was starting to believe what Wei Chong said. The northwest is very vast, to the point that you start to doubt your life. Furthermore, the northwest is a lawless region, and it is very chaotic. Every sect controls a land that is 10,000 miles wide, and the nobles that are within this region have to pay protection fees to the sect. In Kangluo continent, the sect is bigger than the royal family. I am planning to become the emperor, so who the hell is going to ask me for protection fees? I will make you feel despair to the point that you start to doubt your life. Baigu. Subordinate is here. Go and take a look at the surroundings. Yihua's words paused for a moment. Just a moment ago, I was about to say that I am going to snatch the throne. Is there any family that I can stay in? Yihua said faintly. My 2 wives are quite shrewd. However, Yihua still sent a voice transmission to Baigu. Go and take a look at the nearest imperial city. Yes. Baigu, who was in the air, immediately disappeared. It must be said, Baigu is indeed an expert in intelligence gathering. Looking at my subordinates, they seem to be very bored. Let's barbecue first. Yihong and the other tools have been brought, right? Yihua said faintly. Your Honor, I have brought them. Go and arrange it then. Yes, Your Honor. Yihong and LV Liang could be seen immediately setting up the barbecue rack. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji had a stupefied look on their faces. In the end, Donghuang Baiji couldn't help but ask, Yihua, are you here for revenge or are you here for barbecue? Yihua was currently eating skewers. It smells so good. Didn't Baigu go to scout for intelligence gathering? Let's fill our stomachs first. Hey, Dofusher, quickly set up the tent. We will be sleeping here today. Everyone. I feel that his honor isn't here for revenge, but rather, he is here for a vacation. With the atmosphere of an outing, Everyone started barbecuing. Furthermore, the wives of Lai Gu's subordinates were displaying their talents. The wives were singing, the wives were dancing. Lai Gu's 4 wives were incredible. They were able to sing and dance. Look at Lai Gu, this little man. After his 4 wives finished performing, there would be a bit of sweat on his forehead, and Lai Gu would immediately take out a napkin to wipe his sweat. What a good man. The sky gradually darkened, and in this desolate and uninhabited place, the bonfire seemed so bright. Your Honor. Suddenly, Bai Gu's voice rang out in the air. Yi Hua placed the beer on the ground, and his subordinates stopped chatting and stood up respectfully. Yi Hua sat on the ground and asked faintly, "Have you found it?" Your Honor, I have already found it. There is a big family that is 10,000 kilometers away from here. Yi Hua wrinkled his brows. The closest family? Yes, Your Honor. Yi Hua originally planned to find the closest family to see who was the most unlucky. From the looks of it, this family was the most unlucky one. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji smiled bitterly as they shook their heads. Husband, this is really. Continue acting. Let's see how long you can continue acting. Chapter 742. Yi Hua pondered for a while, then looked at the sky. It was already getting late. Rest here today. Let me think about it. Yes. The subordinates began to return to their own tents. Due to the soundproofing problem, the male friends had to endure it. After all, it was very embarrassing if their wives' moans were heard. Yi Hua seemed to have thought of this problem as well, thus he added on. Tonight, all of you pay attention, keep quiet. As soon as he said this, his subordinates instantly understood. All of the women were endlessly bashful. His Honor is very mischievous right now, and the 2 madams don't even care about him. Tang Wei, who was in the team, wanted to, but it was a pity that the blockhead beside her didn't care about her. In the entire team, she was the only one who was still a virgin. Actually, there were also a few virgins. For example, Sun Fong, Brett, and of course Qin Yutong. All of them were waiting to be. It was really hard on these girls. Yi Hua naturally brought his 2 wives into the tent. Right now, the children had long since gone to sleep by themselves, and there was no need for their parents to accompany them. Towards coming to this unfamiliar world, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji were both very excited. Hundreds and thousands of questions came out of their mouths, causing Yi Hua to not be able to think at ease. If anything were to happen in the future, the 2 of you would have to take the blame. Gradually, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji fell asleep while nestling in Qingye's embrace. Yi Hua, who was hugging onto the most beautiful woman in the world, didn't have the mood to sleep at all. Returning to this world once again made Yi Hua so excited that he wanted to shout out. However, in front of his subordinates, he was too embarrassed to do so. Therefore, he used the barbecue performance to calm himself down. Hearing the sound of the wind coming from outside, Yi Hua let out a breath, then slowly closed his eyes and went to sleep. In the past, I could continuously not sleep, but right now sleeping has already become a daily habit. Should I put on a facial mask to replenish my hydration? A slight groan suddenly sounded out, and Yi Hua, who was about to fall asleep, suddenly opened his eyes. Which bastard couldn't help but mess with his wife? I have already emphasized it so much, yet you still want to do it. Don't you know this is a group activity? You can't even tolerate this. Yi Hua really wanted to rush out and give the harshest criticism. Although his voice was very, very low, probably everyone heard it. A few black lines had already appeared on Yi Hua's forehead. Which shameless person is it? Don't you know to cover your wife's mouth? Even a soundproof spell would be good. In Cracked Bone's tent, Lai Gu was hugging Wen Xia with his left arm and Yu Hua with his right arm, while Yu Hua and Bai Xiaojun were sleeping beside him. Lai Gu's mouth was slightly twitching. The faces of the 4 wives were slightly red, because they also heard the sound. His Honor is really too much. He doesn't allow us to act recklessly, yet he himself is acting recklessly. Lai Gu said in a low voice. Yu Hua said softly. Maybe it's someone else? Just now, His Honor had strictly forbade us from doing anything. Who would dare to do that? Lai Gu pursed his lips. His Honor is truly unable to stay calm for the entire night. Maybe it's a soul-detaching technique. The other one beside him laughed tenderly. Maybe Zishan. Bai Xiaojun followed up and said. It seemed that in the team, these two women were famous for pestering their husbands. But inside Floating World's tent, Wandering Soul's ears were stuffed with white napkins to stop all the seductive sounds, because he was afraid that he would not be able to resist it. Do Fusha rolled his eyes. His honor is too bad. He asked his subordinates to be quiet, yet he himself, inside Yihong's tent, Zishan used her clothes to cover her face. Yihong was the same as well. That voice was too devilish. The four little fellows were sleeping very soundly, and thus, they didn't hear anything. When everyone walked out of their tent the next day, their eye circles were a bit dark. It was clear that they didn't sleep well. Yihua sized up his subordinates. Just who was the one who did it for the entire night? Meanwhile, when the subordinates looked at his honor, they couldn't help but admire him in their hearts. Because Qingya and Donghuang Baiji slept very early yesterday, they didn't hear what Yihua said. But today, they discovered that the gaze that Yihua's subordinates were looking at them with was different. I do not wish for what happened last night to happen again. Yihua said gravely. That person is simply shameless. The subordinates felt that his honor was the one who complained first. It was clearly us, and even his honor's wife was led astray by his honor. However, as men, they were still able to understand his honor. Just that, this kind of behavior doesn't conform to his honor's style. I will personally go and take a look today, all of you, defend the battlefield. Subordinate obeys. Regarding the future headquarters, Yihua wanted to personally go and take a look. He mustn't be careless about this. Since it was going to be a big family, the area that the headquarters occupied should be very large. The 300-meter-tall city wall should not be lacking, and the dazzling and magnificent palace should not be lacking. The flourishing streets definitely should not be lacking, because only flourishing would be able to display my ruling power. Yihua, I will go with you, Donghuang Baiji said tenderly at the side. All right, Qingya, you stay behind and look after the children, don't let them run around. Yihua warned. Although he wasn't really worried about the children's safety, as a father, he still had to be concerned about the children. And the two of you be careful. Qingya replied obediently. Yihua didn't dawdle and brought the empress to take a look at the future palace. That palace was going to be a great place in history. However, when he saw the big family, Yihua's expression became bad. 300-meter-tall city wall? I am thinking too much. The city wall is constructed using simple round wood. Even the city gate is made of wood. I am thinking too much about the flourishing streets. The streets were cold and cheerless, and occasionally, a figure would appear and quickly run into a house, leaving behind deep snow on the ground. Palace? Those are just a few dilapidated houses. The magnificence of the palace turned pitch black. And you call this a big family? Big my ass. Yihua, let's go down and take a look. Donghuang Baiji suggested. How would Yihua have the mood to enter the city to take a look? This should be the smallest imperial city. As long as a wave of monsters attacked the city, this small imperial city would disappear from the map. Those people seemed to be leaving in a panic. Donghuang Baiji pointed at the crowd that was leaving the city hurriedly and said. Yihua let out a breath. I didn't expect that my luck would be so bad. To be able to pick such a place right from the start, I am truly unlucky. Didn't they say that there would be nothing in this magnificent city? After landing on the ground with the empress, the two of them stepped on the deep snow and slowly walked towards the city gate. Towards this noble person who suddenly appeared, the people that were preparing to leave sized up the two of them with curious gazes. The man was extraordinarily handsome, and the woman was so beautiful that it could make one feel suffocated. This kind of man and woman, with a single look, one could tell that they were sent down by some sect to gain experience. One cannot afford to offend them. The mink coat that Yihua was wearing was even more extravagant. Chapter 743. There weren't even any strong men. Most of them were old, weak, women, and children. Donghuang Baiji was finally unable to hold back the doubt in her heart, and asked an old man who was sweeping the snow in front of his house. Hello, why are all the people here leaving the city, and I don't see many men? The old man raised his wrinkled face, took a look at Donghuang Baiji, and went into a slight daze. From the looks of it, he was shocked by Dong Huangbaiji's beauty as well. After all, Qingya and Dong Huangbaiji's beauty could be said to be able to attract both big and small people, and anyone who saw them would be shocked. Little girl, it's not safe here. Leave quickly. The old man gently persuaded her. He withdrew his gaze and continued to sweep the snow on the ground. Just what is going on here? Dong Huangbaiji couldn't help but ask again. The old man straightened his slightly bowed waist and said in a low voice, "It's winter, and the evil witches often appear. The strong men in the city have been captured, and the monsters appear after winter. In the past, the Duchy of Gouda sent out troops to suppress them, but in the past 3 years, there has been no one. It's the royal family who organized the resistance. However, right now even the royal family has run away, and this Lingtai kingdom is about to be destroyed." After finished speaking, the old man took a deep breath. "I have grown up here, and I don't have the strength to run anymore." Looking at the old man's aged back as he walked into the house, Dong Huangbaiji let out a breath. Compared to this place, the people on earth are much more fortunate. At least he didn't have to be afraid. "Yihua, how about this place be our headquarters?" Dong Huangbaiji held on to her husband's arm and said. Yihua didn't really like this place. Although this place was big, it was too simple and crude, and it would be very troublesome to rebuild this place. "Do you like this place?" Yihua asked curiously. Compared to liking them, Dong Huangbai would rather help these helpless people to have a good environment to live in. If they are under Yihua's protection, they should be able to obtain protection. In any case, Yihua was also planning to look for a territory. Not only would he be able to help others here, no one would snatch his territory away from him, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. "Will you please?" Without the children by her side, the queen began to shake her husband's arm and act like a spoiled child. Yihua was helpless. "I can't stand my 2 women acting coquettishly the most, especially the empress. Let's go back and make a plan then." Yihua said faintly. "Let's go back to this place then. I, the supreme overlord, am here to be an emperor, so I must have the dignity of an emperor. It's just that this starting point is too low. This place can no longer be called a country. It's more or less like a small village, and I, the supreme overlord, am just a village head. F***ck me." After returning to the campsite, Yihua began passing down his orders. As for the sound he heard last night, it shouldn't have been made by his subordinates. The Miko-sama was grabbing men, and it was obvious that she was trying to extract Yang Qi. He was already used to this kind of evil technique. As for how to become the emperor of Lingtai Kingdom, Yihua couldn't force himself to do it. "I have to make those people beg me to become the emperor, and then I will reluctantly become the emperor. We need actors for this. The enemy actors seem to be ready. I heard the old man say that monsters are attacking the city, so I shall take this opportunity to display my great strength. I'll let you people see that even if an ancient divine beast attacks the city, I can destroy it." The next step was to wait for the monsters to attack the city, and then move into the Lingtai Kingdom's palace. However, every night, Yihua and his subordinates would be able to hear that NNN sound. If it wasn't for the fact that he needed an actress, Yihua would have long arranged for this witch to play the role. And from the information that Yihua received from White Bones, he found out that the evil witch was indeed recuperating. And judging from the quantity of the evil witch, she would be coming out to recuperate very soon. More importantly, this witch is controlling a lot of rank 1 and 2 monsters. No wonder there would be monsters attacking the city. It seems like this witch is controlling the city from behind. It is a pity that this time, you met me, and in the end, you are going to become the stepping stone for me to ascend to the throne. However, for you to be able to torture me for a few nights, you can be considered to be formidable, and for you to even make me keep you, you should feel fortunate." Finally, 8 days later, White Bones sent over a message. There was movement. The 8 days of camping in the wilderness caused Yihua and his subordinates to suffer unspeakably, especially those who had to exercise every single day. This was practically torture to them. After hearing that the witch had taken action, White Bones really wanted to thank the witch. "You finally took action." Right now, outside of Lingtai Kingdom's wooden wall, over 100 rank 1 and 2 monsters were gathered. The small ones ranged from slimes to goblins, and there were even one or two skeletons that were holding onto staffs, undead. And standing in the air was an enchanting woman. That woman was precisely the witch that the old man spoke of. Dressed in a purple robe, her beautiful hair that was like a waterfall hung down naturally, and her slender white legs were faintly discernible. Every single movement of hers carried a seductive air. And although she was smiling, it was a cold and eerie smile. On top of the wooden wall stood a few old men that were in their 70s and 80s. Their bodies were covered in worn-out armor, and their hands were holding onto the most ordinary bows and arrows. The quiver that they carried on their backs only had a few arrows, and it was unknown whether or not they would be able to hit the enemy. The old man that was sweeping the snow could be seen as the leader of the group, and on his waist was a machete. His eyes were fixated on the monsters that were not far away from him. And of course, he was also fixated on the witch who was in the air. "Raise the flag." The old man shouted loudly. On top of the wooden wall, 30-plus old men could be seen raising the flag of Lingtai Kingdom, and the scarlet flag fluttered on top of the wooden wall. Very quickly, the pure white snowflakes dyed the scarlet flag with a layer of white crystals. "Draw the bow," the old man shouted again. The 30 old men pulled the bow in their hands into a full moon shape. Looking at the old men on the wooden wall, Miko-sama was amused and shouted in a sweet voice, "Old men, open the gate, and I will spare your lives." "You crazy Miko-sama, God will deal with you one day," the old man shouted. Maybe it was because he hadn't drawn the bow for a long time. His right hand was trembling, and he accidentally shot the arrow. The arrow glided in the white air in a beautiful arc and firmly inserted into the ground. It was still 10 feet away from the target. "Ha ha ha," Miko-sama couldn't help but laugh, laughing at these old men who overestimated themselves. Such ordinary people dared to block her way. The old man looked at the arrow, and his heart sank. The morale of the old men next to him was greatly affected, and they were very depressed. "Miko-sama, today I will fight you to the death to avenge my son." The old man pulled out the machete from his waist, pointed it at Miko-sama and shouted angrily. Miko-sama stuck out her bright red tongue and licked the corner of her mouth. "Old man, your son tastes good, very fragrant." "You." Miko-sama stopped smiling, and a gloomy aura shrouded her face and she shouted, "Kill." Hundreds of monsters rushed towards the wall, and more than 30 old men began to draw their bows and shoot arrows. But such arrows were useless, they couldn't even penetrate the slime. Chapter 744. Put out the fire. Put out the fire. The women in the city carried buckets of water, hoping to put out the raging fire. However, all of these were in vain. It was only a matter of time before the monsters rushed in. The old men shot all of the arrows and pulled out their swords, planning to have a life and death battle with these monsters. Live and die together with Lingtai country. Looking at the ferocious monsters, everyone on the city wall revealed a look of despair. How good would it be if there were reinforcements at this time? Perhaps the old men's prayers were answered by the heavens. The originally gloomy weather suddenly revealed a ray of light, and the heavy snow in the sky instantly stopped. Such a phenomenon caused the monsters to stop attacking, and even the witch was puzzled, thinking to herself that there shouldn't be any experts coming to this small place, right? That Gouda principality even abandoned this Lingtai country, and those sects wouldn't even bother about it. Just what is this thing? The witch was puzzled, but when the old men on the city wall and all of the women in the city saw such a spectacle, they all knelt down and shouted that the heavens had opened their eyes. Regarding such a phenomenon, it was indeed like the heavens had opened their eyes. Of course, this wasn't because the heavens had opened their eyes. It was because Yi Hua felt that it was about time for him to appear. After all, if he appeared at the start, he definitely wouldn't achieve such an effect. He had to give people hope when they were in despair. This way, they would be able to worship him endlessly. Don't ask why. If you watch Calabash Brothers saving your grandfather for a few years, you will also understand this logic. A ray of golden light shot out from the sky and landed on the ground. Yi Hua and his subordinates appeared for the first time in Kangluo continent. Although there weren't many spectators, and they weren't very strong, it could be said that they had taken the first step. The people on the city wall all saw the 20-plus people that suddenly appeared, There were men, women, and even children. Everyone was very puzzled. Just who are these people? No matter who they are, to be able to descend from the sky, they are definitely not ordinary people. They might be some powerful sects that knew that the people here were living in an abyss of suffering, and sent their proud disciples to come and save them. I heard that the disciples of those sects all fly around in the sky, and in the blink of an eye, they can jump tens of thousands of feet. Right now, the witch was also sizing up Yihua and the others. This group of people looks very ordinary, and I can't feel any fluctuation of Do Qi from them. However, why is there no fluctuation of Do Qi when they descend from the sky? This is very strange. Who are you people? How dare you ruin my plans? Miko-sama shouted, looking very vigilant. Yihua ignored the witch and said faintly, "Soul separation, let these monsters recover." Yes. Soul Drifting raised a hand, and a pink mist enshrouded all of the monsters. The eyes of these monsters gradually focused on Kuroto. It was obvious that they were under Miko's control just now. The monster that had regained its sanity looked a little huge. It looked around curiously, wondering what it was doing. Yihua saw that there were even undead among these monsters. Thinking back, I was also like this back then. If I didn't work hard, I would have ended up becoming someone else's tool, and I wouldn't have been able to achieve what I have today. As an undead, how could he resign himself to fate? If he did not work hard, he would not know how great his achievements would be. Miko-sama watched Soul Drifting lift her control with a flick of his hand, causing her heart to sink. From this move, it could be seen that this woman's strength was on par with his. If these people were all that strong, wouldn't he be in trouble today? What if they were bluffing? Just to trick me away? I'm a level 1 doja, who the hell are you people? The witch revealed her strength, seemingly wanting to use this method to scare them away. In Kangluo continent, there was a division of strength. Do doja, do shir de do shir, do wang do huang do zong do di do zun and tianzun. Of course, there were also talented and intelligent people who were able to reach Heaven's Law. During the promotion to a doja, every sect would unearth a Heaven's Law expert to become a Heaven's Law doja. Heaven's Law doja and ordinary doja were worlds apart. Heaven's Law doja were invincible in the same rank, and they were even able to fight against those of a higher rank. As long as one became a Heaven's Law doja, one would definitely become popular in the entire Kangluo continent. After all, there were a lot of sects that were willing to provide resources to Heaven's Law doja. All in all, Heaven's Law expert was a hot commodity in Kangluo continent. The number of Heaven's Law experts that died in Yihua's hands was not small. However, Heaven's Law overlord, Yihua had yet to meet someone of this rank. Because to be able to cultivate to Heaven's Law overlord, not only did one need time, one also needed too many items. Just like playing a game, the amount of experience needed to level up a Heaven's Law overlord was 100 times more than that of an ordinary Heaven's Law overlord. Furthermore, a lot of materials were required to level up a Heaven's Law overlord. And one must know that the number of Heaven's Law overlords was very few to begin with. Thus in Kangluo continent, there had never been a Heaven's Law overlord, let alone a Heaven's Law overlord. Meanwhile, Yihua's 4 children were definitely Heaven's Law experts. According to the division of strength, Ali at the very least had the strength of a Heaven's Law dozong, while Yi Yan, God Yi, and Yi Lu should have the strength of a Heaven's Law emperor. They did not need any items to level up, and as they grew older, their strength would grow as well. This was the benefit of being the child of an overlord. Thus, a child like Ali had long won at the starting line, the kind that was unreasonable. However, this which was just an ordinary doja, without the powerful resources of a sect, it was already not bad for her to be able to cultivate to the level of a doja. However, this kind of cultivation was very evil, and it was fated to be a dead end. Yihua took a casual look at the witch. Doja? She sure is small. Who am I? Humph. I am someone that you cannot afford to offend. Right now, Yihua did not refer to himself as the Supreme Overlord. Haha. Arrogant child. I see that your looks are not bad, and you are very suitable to be my medicine catalyst. Also you men. The witch looked at Yihua and the others. While I don't have any thoughts towards women, I have a lot of thoughts towards men. Alright, I will gift one to you then, Sky Red. I will leave this to you. Yihua said faintly. There was only one reason why Yihua called Sky Red out, and that was because there were some things that couldn't be held back and needed to be vented out. This which just so happened to be a woman that liked to tease men, and thus, Sky Red was the perfect target for Sky Red to take revenge on. I am not saying that Yihua likes to tease men, I am just feeling that Sky Red needs to vent out her anger. Yes. Sky Red replied gravely, then walked out of the group. The 2 meters tall Sky Red looked just like a small mountain, especially the explosive muscles on his body. For women that liked muscular men, Sky Red's body was practically a fatal injury. Chapter 745. Sky Hong stood at the front of the group and stared deeply at Miko-sama. He had been hearing this shameless woman's voice every night for the past few days, and Sky Hong really wanted to crush her head. She was a scumbag. Sky Hong felt that every woman he saw was a scumbag, especially those who were seductive, and he wanted to break their necks. Miko-sama looked at Sky Hong with excitement in her eyes. Originally, Sky Hong was standing at the back, and she didn't pay much attention to him. Who would pay attention to an ugly man? But when Sky Hong walked out of the group, his muscles made Miko-sama's heart beat faster. Those rock-like muscles, those perfect lines outlined the sexiness of a man. That 8-pack was like the product of a thunderstorm, and Miko-sama couldn't help but want to touch it. Although this man was extremely ugly, as long as he had a different head, he could still be used. This was the sexiest man she had ever seen. This was true. Although Sky Hong was the ugliest man in the group, he was the sexiest man in the group, and even Miko-sama was infatuated with him. You become my herbalist disciple, and I'll spare your life. Miko-sama pointed at Blue Sky Hong and said with a smile, her eyes fixed on Blue Sky Hong's chest, abs and mermaid lines. Sky Hong didn't say anything, and his tall body suddenly disappeared. This startled Miko-sama, and before she could react, she felt a strong hand strangling her neck. Miko-sama was stunned. What kind of speed is this? I didn't even see his trajectory clearly, it's impossible. Feeling the strength on her neck, Miko-sama quickly came back to her senses, and revealed a seductive expression. Am I beautiful? Slap. Sky Hong's slap landed on Miko-sama's face, and Miko-sama was stunned. Scum! Miko-sama's left cheek instantly swelled up, and her expression was very strange. My seduction technique didn't work on him. This is impossible. Miko-sama forcefully used her seduction technique and asked again. This time, she didn't finish her sentence. Slap. Miko-sama's other cheek also swelled up, and this really stunned Miko-sama. It wasn't just Miko-sama who was stunned, the old men standing on the wooden wall were also stunned. That strong man actually grabbed Miko-sama like a little chick, and even slapped her. What kind of expert was this? He actually made Doja unable to fight back. Female. Song Kong Hong finally shouted the second word. Putting all of them together, she was a scumbag. When the people on Yihua's side heard what Blue Sky Hong said, their expressions became very strange. I didn't expect that after 4 years, Blue Sky Hong's resentment would become even greater. Yihua heaved a deep sigh. She didn't think that she would become a scumbag in Song Kong Hong's heart. Lai Gu seemed to have sensed his wife's sadness, and lightly embraced Yihua into his embrace. The current Lai Gu is really a warm man. Miko-sama was obviously unaware of Blue Sky Red's way of speaking, but Miko didn't give up on saving herself. Soul-splitting palm. Miko's slender hand turned into a palm and struck Sky Hong's chest. What hard pectoral muscles. This was Miko's first thought. Song Kong Hong lowered his head slightly, and his face suddenly contorted. This woman actually touched his chest. She was indeed a shameless scumbag. Pa. This time, Blue Sky Red's strength increased a little, and even knocked Miko's teeth out. Miko felt the world spinning around her, and she felt like she was about to fall into a coma. Damn it. How can this man be so strong? There's no other way. I can only use my trump card. Mystic Artifact. Rakshasa Throat Seal. This is a high-grade mystic artifact that I obtained by chance, and it is capable of sealing the throat upon contact with blood. Even an emperor wouldn't be able to save me. I have to use it today. Miko's slender hand moved, and a small needle appeared between her fingers. She then ferociously pierced towards Song Konghong's neck. Die. Song Konghong slightly frowned, and he felt an itch on his neck. When he lowered his head, he saw that Miko was actually holding a needle. She's tickling me. I can't tolerate this. Miko was stupefied. Rakshasa throat seal is actually unable to be pierced into my throat. This thin and small needle is actually unable to be pierced into my throat. How is this possible? Song Konghong was already extremely enraged by Miko's various teasing methods. He raised his huge palm and slashed at Miko from both sides. His mouth kept on shouting, "Scum woman! How could Miko beat Song Konghong's opponent?" She was directly slapped unconscious. A golden flame emerged from Song Konghong's palm, and Miko's body was instantly devoured. In the blink of an eye, Miko's body turned into dust, and not a single trace was left behind. The jaws of the old men who were standing on top of the wooden wall almost dropped to the ground. Song Konghong's actions shocked the old men. Such a powerful Miko was actually grabbed by him and slapped by him. Then he burned the Miko. It felt too surreal. Was this a dream or something? Only after a long time did they realize that this wasn't a dream. This was all real. Miko was killed by that man, and Miko took revenge for the men of Lingtai country. Thank the heavens for sending out such a powerful person. That damned Miko finally got her retribution. The old man looked at the 20+ people outside of the city and immediately shouted, "Quickly open the city gate, we have to properly thank the heroes." At this moment, Song Konghong walked back to the group with a stiff expression on his face, as if what happened just now wasn't done by him. However, everyone now knew that Song Konghong didn't like women anymore. His sexual orientation had changed, and he had to properly protect the men around him. Everyone turned around and looked towards Lingtai country. A country like this actually only had 100 people left. This is truly tragic. As the city gate opened, the old man brought along some old women and ran out to welcome the heroes who had descended from the sky. Benefactor. The old man brought along everyone and kneeled in front of Yi Hua. Facing such a kneeling, Yi Hua was naturally able to accept it. If I didn't appear, you all might have already become corpses. Get up. Yi Hua said faintly. As the old man stood up and sized up the man in front of him, he suddenly felt that this man looked familiar. When the old man saw Donghuang Baiji who was at the side, the old man recalled. That day when he was sweeping the snow in front of his house, they were the ones who passed by and asked him a question. I didn't expect that they would be the ones who came to save me. They are truly good people. Thank you all for saving us old men. The old man was filled with gratitude as he once again kneeled in front of Yi Hua and kowtowed. For such a good person to appear in this deceitful world is truly not easy. Yi Hua said faintly, "Since the danger has already been resolved, I won't be staying behind." Hearing what Yi Hua said, the old man immediately became anxious. "Benefactor, please stay behind and have a meal with us. We have to properly thank you as well." "It's fine," Yi Hua said lightly, pretending that he didn't want anything from the old man. The old men became silent. Yi Hua was a bit puzzled. "I am being courteous. Shouldn't you all continue to urge me to stay? Let this sovereign be your emperor." Chapter 746. Why are these old men so stupid? Right now is the best time for you all to hug my thigh. Could it be that you all want me to take the initiative to say it? Idiots. Yi Hua misunderstood. These people who are able to stay are all honest commoners. How would they have such thoughts? They need to be enlightened. Therefore, at this time, I need sensible subordinates to appear. Kai Yun immediately understood. Yi Hua, what do you think we should do if monsters appear again? Kai Yun said melancholically, as if he was very worried. As expected of a character in a team, if his acting skills weren't up to par, he wouldn't be able to survive. Yi Hua also immediately understood. That's right, if monsters were to attack again, I'm afraid sigh. After speaking, Yi Hua let out a heavy sigh. As expected. Hearing that, the old man's expression changed. Benefactor, Please don't leave. What's wrong? Yihua asked gravely. The main reason was because Yihua's performance was too cold, just like an emperor, causing people to tremble. The old man actually wanted to say that he was scared. However, upon thinking about the hundreds of lives, the old man made up his mind. Benefactor, please stay. Protect us. I like to hear this sentence, but as a cold and aloof supreme overlord, it doesn't seem appropriate to agree to it just like this. What can you give us? Yihua asked faintly. What I want is the village chief. No, it's the throne. When the old man heard Yihua's words, he became stupefied. Give what? This Lingtai country is already broken. What can I give? The old man was a bit desperate. However, a woman at the back said, Benefactor, if you don't mind, you can be our emperor. Following what the woman said, the hundreds of people in the surroundings all agreed. Looking at the group of old, weak women and children who were kneeling in front of him, a trace of a smile appeared on the corner of Yihua's mouth. You all finally said it, allowing me to step down. Should I try to shirk it again? Forget it. This group of honest people won't be courteous. If they really let me go later on, it would be awkward. Since you all have requested it sincerely, I will reluctantly agree to it and protect your safety. Yihua's tone carried an awe-inspiring aura of righteousness, as if with him here, no one would be threatened, and it gave everyone a strong sense of security. Although Qinya and Donghuang Baiji's faces were expressionless, they were still amused by their husband's words. It was obvious that Donghuang Baiji was dying to have sex with Yihua, and yet he was still acting as if he didn't want to. However, the current Yihua looked very cute. Only Qinya and Donghuang Baiji felt that Donghuang Baiji was cute. The old man was so scared that he was trembling. However, when everyone heard that Yihua had agreed to stay behind, a glimmer of hope appeared in everyone's eyes. That burly man was able to pinch the witch to death with a single hand. Such a powerful figure can be compared with those sections. With them guarding the Lingtai kingdom, it was the most suitable choice. The old man immediately shouted, Long live the emperor! Hooray! Long live! As the old man's voice faded, the people behind him shouted in unison. Although it was a bit sloppy, at the very least, Yihua was acknowledged by all of the residents. Moreover, it felt good to hear such an honorific. But it was not over yet. Qinya and Donghuang Baiji could be seen slowly caressing Donghuang Baiji's body. When Donghuang Baiji's subordinates saw that Donghuang Baiji's wife was already acting like this, they hurriedly followed suit. Then they shouted in unison, Our emperor! Hooray! 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 The shouts of the group of bug-level subordinates immediately shook the world, and the shouts could be heard from a few miles away. At this moment, the falling snow in the sky stopped, and the black clouds gradually dispersed. Sunlight once again descended, shining onto Yihua's tall and straight body. They seemed to be respectfully welcoming Yihua, the new emperor. When such a phenomenon fell into the eyes of the commoners, they felt that it was the will of the heavens, and they were even more certain that this man was made to be an emperor. To them, the throne was just an empty title. If someone was able to sit on the throne and was able to protect them, then it would be worth it. Rise! Yihua placed both of his hands on the table. At this moment he felt really good. Especially Qinya and Donghuang Baiji, they have given me too much face. Tonight, when I return, I will take good care of them, and let them feel my boundless love. Everyone stood up, and the old man said respectfully, My emperor, please follow me. In any case, I am now an emperor, and my style of doing things has to change as well. Directly hugging onto my wives seems a bit inappropriate. That would be the behavior of a hoodlum. Walking through the city gate, the spacious road led directly to the dilapidated imperial palace. When Yihua walked to the front of the imperial palace, he let out a deep sigh. My emperor, all of the valuables in the imperial palace have been looted clean, and some of the valuables in the imperial palace are even a bit damaged. The old man was a bit embarrassed. My benefactor saved everyone, but I am unable to repay him. After all, being an emperor here is equivalent to being a bachelor. I don't have any soldiers, I don't have any power, and the only commoners I am managing are only some elderly people. Furthermore, there are only a few hundred people in the imperial palace, And this place is no different from an empty city. Yi Hua waved his hand helplessly, and the elderly people prepared to go back and pack up. Old man, come over, I have something to ask you. Yi Hua shouted towards the old man. The old man was startled, and he immediately bowed his body and ran over. This commoner obeys the emperor's decree. Continuing walking into the imperial palace, Yi Hua saw that the palace on top of the stairs was already severely damaged, and the stairs were filled with potholes. Some of the dragon heads were already gone, and only 4 claws were left. There were also weeds on the ground, and the surrounding palace was even more dilapidated. Slowly walking up the stairs, a black signboard fell onto the ground, and on the signboard 3 big words were written: Supreme Spirit Palace. The interior of the palace was pitch black, and the interior was completely empty. The throne was gone, and the throne was moved away by someone. This is too miserable. Yi Hua walked into the palace and asked faintly, "What is your name?" "My emperor, this commoner's surname is Chao, and my name is a single character, San." Chao San said respectfully, not even daring to breathe loudly. "I feel that this man is very scary, but I don't know how scary it is." Yi Hua was very curious about a question, and thus he asked, "Let me ask you, why is there no one who sent troops to defend this place?" "My emperor, this Lingtai kingdom is a subsidiary kingdom of Gouda Principality, and every year, they have to pay tribute to Gouda Principality. However, because the environment is getting worse and worse, the crops are not able to harvest, and the merchants are also not able to find any business opportunities. As time passes, the Lingtai kingdom declined, and the Lingtai kingdom is unable to afford to pay tribute to Gouda Principality." After hearing what Chao San said, Yi Hua understood. Since the protection fee is gone, the Lingtai kingdom will not be able to renew the protection fee. "What about the royal family here?" "My emperor, the royal family sold all of their valuables and escaped to Gouda Principality. Meanwhile, some of them stayed behind to fight, but in the end, they were still captured by the witch." Chao San said gravely, "In this royal family there are good people, and there are bad people." Yi Hua nodded his head. "Let me ask you, where is this place? What kind of country is Gouda Principality?" Chapter 747. Your Majesty, this is the territory of the Northern Liang. The Gouda Principality is one of the 3 countries of the Northern Liang, and the 3 countries are controlled by the Tianliang sect. This information was somewhat useful. It seemed that White Bones had to go out and scout for information. "No, I can't go and inquire about information. If I, the Supreme Overlord, knew everything, wouldn't that mean that I wouldn't be able to do anything? I just want to see how my opponent is going to show off his intelligence in front of me. After that, I, the Supreme Overlord, will slap him to death. What else is there besides Northern Liang?" "Emperor, this commoner has never left Northern Liang," Chao San said apologetically. Yi Hua nodded his head. "Just how big is this Kangluo continent? I can't even imagine how big this Kangluo continent is. From now on, you will be the representative of the people. If the people have any wishes, you can look for me directly." Chao San was overjoyed and quickly kowtowed to express his gratitude. "This commoner thanks the emperor. Get up, there's more. The name of Lingtai country needs to be changed, it doesn't sound good." Yi Hua really felt that the name was not nice to hear. No matter what, this is my territory, so it should be a bit more loud and powerful. Forget it, the name is too hard to think of. In the future, we shall be called Voidless Empire. Hearing this, Chao San was so frightened that he quickly kneeled down. "My emperor, you mustn't." Yi Hua's brows wrinkled. "What? You have a problem with me?" Yi Hua had also made a slip of the tongue and had even gotten the title wrong. The frightened Chao San did not notice and quickly explained. "Your Majesty, calling yourself an empire is a great disrespect to the Gouda Principality. Moreover, becoming an empire requires the approval of the Tianliang sect, or else it will cause a commotion. I thought it was something big, but it's just a small matter. I have made up my mind. You only need to convey the wishes of the people. You don't have to worry about anything else." Chao San was helpless. He could not persuade her no matter what. If they angered the Guda principality, they would definitely send troops to exterminate them. Oh my god. Miko-sama had just died. He still couldn't escape death. After Chao Sen left, Yihua said gravely, Empire. I want to see who dares to provoke me. Wei Chong. Subordinate is here. Wei Chong walked out from the group and shouted respectfully. I'll leave the palace and security to you and Tang Wei. Wei Chong and Tang Wei both knelt down on one knee and respectfully shouted. Subordinate obeys. Lai Gu. Your subordinate is here. Yui ran by Xiaojin Wenxia, and Yuhua will be in charge of Voidless Empire's defensive measures. Lai Gu's family of 4 answered respectfully. Subordinate obeys. Open clouds. Your subordinate is here. Kai Yun happily knelt down. You and your subordinates will maintain the internal security of Voidless Empire. Kai Yun, Sky Red, Wild Sand, Luo Ho, and White Bones answered respectfully. Understood. Green and Red Brothers. Your subordinates are here. The Green and Red Brothers walked out from their ranks. I want to see a street packed with people. I don't care what you do. The corners of the Green and Red Brothers' mouths twitched. This was probably the most difficult mission out of all of them. But no matter what, he had to overcome the difficulties. This subordinate obeys. Death Mage. Your subordinate is here. I want this barren land to be reborn. Yihua was also doing things according to his own pace. It was a bit difficult to take control of a country, so he had to take it slow. This subordinate obeys. Fighting the world. Soul detachment. Your subordinate is here. Yihua said gravely. I will leave the logistics to you guys. Yes. Blood Demon. Your subordinate is here. Go and cook. Yes. Looking towards Ju Tian's family, Yihua said faintly. Brett, you and Yi Zizi go and see if there is anything that needs help. Yes. Yes. Qin Yutong. Qin Yutong, who was standing at the side, was startled. It can't be right? Brother-in-law. As your sister-in-law come lover, I still have to do things? I can warm the bed though. Here. Qin Yutong shouted out weakly. Clean up the place. Qin Yutong. Before doing these things, I wish to see a brand new Voidless Empire. Understand. Your subordinate understands. Go. Yes. All of Yihua's subordinates instantly disappeared from the palace, and a husky sat on the ground and stuck out its tongue. Yin Lang seemed to be saying, give me some missions as well. Go and clean up the demons in Voidless Empire. Yihua said faintly. This was to give the people a comfortable environment to live in. I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to turn Voidless Empire into heaven on earth, and let the housing prices rise to the peak. Woof, Yin Lang ran out of the palace excitedly. Perhaps because he wasn't familiar with the road. He was knocked over by the doorstep, then he rolled down the stone steps. From time to time, a scream could be heard. Yin Lang fell down quite heavily. Yutong, what are you waiting for? Yihua took a look at his sister-in-law. Humph, Qin Yutong snorted. Even brother-in-law doesn't like me anymore. Dong Huangli shouted out. Daddy, I am going to help Aunt clean up as well. I am going too. Yi Yan followed behind his big sister. God Yi and Yi Lu shouted out as well. Daddy, let's go too. Yihua nodded his head. From today onwards, you all have to call Daddy Emperor Father. Dong Huangli's expression changed. I feel that Daddy is more amiable. Father Emperor sounds a bit cold. Qinya smiled. Alright, when we are in private, call Daddy Emperor when there are outsiders around. Qinya's idea was feasible. The little fellows did not object to it. Qin Yutong brought the 4 children to clean up the place. Empress, how do you feel? Yihua laughed lightly. Qinya and Donghuang Baiji pinched each side of Yihua. Aren't you proud of yourself? Right now, you are still a bald emperor. Bald. You all are truly looking down on me. In less than a month, this place will become a brand new empire. Yihua was filled with confidence. The first step of my revenge can be considered to have succeeded. You all said that sects are more important than countries, so I am going to rewrite this rule. Who dares to test my anger? Qinya let out a breath. Yihua lightly hugged onto Qinya. He knew why she sighed. Qinya, if you miss your parents, You can go back and take a look. It isn't difficult for you. Yihua said tenderly. Qingye and Qing Yutong both had their families, but Dong Huangbaiji didn't. Thus, Dong Huangbaiji was able to follow him out without any worries. Who asked me to marry you? Qingye said petulantly. Ha! Yihua laughed out loud. Qingye said tenderly. Yihua, you have to treat me and the children well. And Qingye, you can be at ease. Towards Yihua's words, Qingye believed them unconditionally. Although Yihua likes to lie to others, he wouldn't lie to others when it comes to big matters. Let's start working as well. In any case, this place will be our home in the future. It won't be comfortable to live in this dilapidated place. Everyone began working. As an empire, they had to act like an empire. This was a very big project, and it was only natural that the number of people would be small. Thus, they had to think of a way. Chapter 748. Wei Chang and Tang Wei were in charge of the reconstruction of the palace, as well as the defense. The huge palace wasn't something that the two of them could handle, so Tang Wei took out a piece of white paper and cut out a human figure. Wei Chang then cast a spell to turn the paper figure into a human. If he summoned a skeleton, he was afraid that it would scare the residents. After all, humans did not have a good impression of other races. The figures that Wei Chang transformed into were all wearing black armor. Their faces were all the same, and their numbers instantly reached 1,000. Under the command of Wei Chang and Tang Wei, the 1,000 black armored guards were like blood brothers, and they started to repair the entire imperial palace. The materials were naturally prepared by Wei Chang. Meanwhile, Lai Gu and his 4 wives were standing outside of the city wall, feeling very depressed. Lai Gu didn't have the ability to transform like Wei Chang, and the 3 women were the same as well. It was just that their strength was extraordinarily strong, and they didn't know any other spells. Facing such a huge project like the city wall, they were really powerless even if they wanted to. What should we do? The mission that His Honor gave us this time is a bit difficult. Wei Chang scratched onto his forehead in melancholy. What His Honor requested is not an ordinary city wall. It must be a city wall that has a high quality. Yuhua said softly. Don't worry, I have a way. Don't. My heart aches for you. Lai Gu thought that Yuhua wanted to use her clone to do things, and thus, he immediately rejected Yuhua. I would rather be scolded by His Honor, but I don't want to see my wife getting tired. Yuhua was filled with happiness, and she just liked how Lai Gu doted on her. This kind of feeling was really good. Hubby, I'm not using a clone. Yuhua chuckled and explained a little. Yuhua, I didn't know you had such an ability, he exclaimed. Amazing. Bai Xiaozhen gave Lai Gu a thumbs up. Fortunately, there is Yuhua who is by Lai Gu's side to provide assistance. Lai Gu didn't waste any more time. He grabbed a handful of snow on the ground and made it into the shape of a human. Then, Moonlight cast a spell, and a warrior wearing a set of white armor appeared. That mighty appearance was really frightening. This was Moonlight's powerful ability to control water. Compared to the black-armored warriors, these white-armored warriors were a little weaker, but as a construction team, they were enough. Lai Gu and his 3 wives began to play making snowmen, and Yuhua was in charge of making snowmen. The intense work was in full swing. Kai Yan also brought his 4 subordinates to patrol the entire empty voidless empire. I think our department should be called Southern Wuqi. What do you guys think? Kai Yan has a good idea. This law enforcement team can also be counted as the Empire's law enforcement team. In the future, when His Honor expands his territory, the law enforcement team will become a very powerful existence. Flagmaster, this is a good idea. Luoho smiled as he waved his white folding fan. And when the time comes, I will go and talk to His Honor. Kai Yan had already imagined the crowds coming and going, and when he appeared, each and every one of them would have a respectful expression on their faces. How refreshing. Wild Sand, get some people out first. The few of us aren't enough to handle the renovation work in this city. Kai Yan was in charge of the city, so naturally that included the renovation work. Scarecrow's Wild Sand pulled out a straw from its body and threw it into the air. The straw gradually turned into granules and slowly fell to the ground. One could see with the naked eye that those granules seemed to be growing, gradually growing into human shapes. The entire street was instantly filled with yellow-armored warriors. Their expressions were wooden, just like the wild sand. Taking a look, this single straw turned into at least several tens of thousands of people. Under Wild Sand's command, those people immediately started working, renovating the damaged houses and so on. However, when those old men suddenly saw so many yellow-armored warriors appearing on the street, they were a bit stupefied. Where did these people come from? Furthermore, looking at their tall and sturdy bodies, one can tell that they are well-trained warriors. Furthermore, they are even able to fly in the sky. This is too mystical. Right now, the entire Wushu Empire was in the midst of reconstruction. Even Yi Hua and his 2 wives were helping out, enjoying the process. Qinya was a business-minded woman, but as the empress, it wasn't good for her to personally make an appearance. Thus, she could only ask Brett to be in charge. Right now, a lot of shops were empty, and there were still houses and so on. In the future, there would definitely be people coming over. When the time comes, I will rent out the houses. Selling them is impossible, because Yi Hua plans to turn Wushu Empire into heaven on earth. When Yi Hua heard what his wife said, he blushed with shame. Earning money is also something that an emperor should do. Qinya sure is a smart woman. The thing that Death Mage and Sun Fong were in charge of was very simple, which was to make the land fertile. An ordinary spell would do. After that, they had to make the land around Wushu Empire clean, then open a channel to bring the river over. As an empire, how could they not have a water source? However, right now, the Green and Red brothers were very depressed. Right now, they were sitting together with their wives and discussing how to make the streets overcrowded with people. LV Shu, we need local specialties, Selena suggested. Selena said, and we need to create business opportunities here and attract merchants over. Yi Hong said gravely, but the environment here isn't good, and there aren't any local specialties here either. Zishan slammed onto the table. Since there aren't any local specialties here, we will create our own brand. Yi Hong and LV Shu went into a daze. Wife, what are you planning to do? Yi Hong asked curiously. We want to do business with women. Zishan thought of a good idea. Selena immediately understood what Zishan meant. Zishan, this idea of yours is too great. And let's do that. Selena agreed. However, LV Shu looked towards Yi Hong, and Yi Hong looked towards her big brother, completely not knowing what they were talking about. The progress of the renovation was changing every single day, and the entire Voidless Empire looked the same every single day. Under Yi Hua's command, the East City Wall was directly abandoned, and the North and South City Walls were extended all the way to the seaside that was 10 kilometers away. Because Yi Hua wanted to create a port. Only by doing so would he be able to promote the development of trade. Furthermore, by expanding my own territory, this is truly a matter that kills 2 birds with 1 stone. The Imperial Palace was located at the center of the city. Thus, the entire Imperial Palace was relocated. Being strong was just that willful. It was fine for all of the streets to be widened. Those kinds of things were simply not suitable to be placed here. It was fine as long as the original style was maintained. 1 month later, the work was all done. Wushu Empire's city wall could be seen to be shining with a golden light. Especially when the sun shone on the city wall. The city wall was so bright that it could practically blind one's eyes. If an enemy were to invade, upon seeing the city wall that was shining with a golden light, they would immediately be blinded by the light. Meanwhile, this wasn't just a simple city wall. There were all sorts of seals that were imprinted on the city wall. If one wanted to break through this city wall, one would require a bit of strength. If not, one might be killed by the city wall. On top of the city wall, there was a white armored warrior standing every 15 meters. The warrior's tiger eyes were sweeping across the boundless white snow. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.